started this room. This time we have much more time. So from our side, I think we can take it till midnight or even after that. So whatever questions are there, you can be sure that we will listen to them and say something. Again, let's first take up, we are trying to take up those questions which were asked in the last meeting, but then we hadn't addressed the things like who are our scientists who are backing us up and other questions. So I presume that lots of the questions which you might have on your list may already be answered in the first part. And after that, anyway, then we have enough time. Slava will want to organize it a little bit differently, the speaking, but that he will tell you then. So, you may or may not know this quote of the mother. It has been decided and remains decided that the Matrimandir will be surrounded with water. This is a very interesting quotation because it shows that already at that time, in the early time, 65, there was the discussion about the lake. And there were people who were in favor of it and against, and the mother put her foot down and said it's decided now and it will remain decided, basta. So that also gives us the feeling that there is no question, yes or no, for the lake. There may be some small details which we can discuss, but the mother has so clearly said it's decided and will remain decided. So the question yes or no doesn't arise at all for us. Now, a few words to polyethylene. Polyethylene, that is the material of which the foil is made for the lake, and it's one of the purest materials you can imagine. It contains only of carbon and hydrogen, nothing else. There is no aluminium inside, no chlorines, nothing, no nitrogen. So this means that there is also no leverage for any acid or any chemicals to break up the polymer. So that's why it is so stable, and that's why in Germany, by law, for garbage fills, the producer has to give a guarantee of 100 years. And even after 100 years, it's still okay. So you can't compare polyethylene to other plastics which contain all kinds of stuff. And it is licensed everywhere for food containers and everything. Now, there is the difference of high-density polyethylene and low-density polyethylene. The high-density polyethylene is just linear. You just have single carbon-hydrogen chains, while the low-density is branched. So it has less specific weight and it's not as strong. We have given you all, for just to feel once how it is, a piece of this high-density polyethylene. We are using 2 millimeter thickness right now, but Syed, our main specialist, has proposed maybe we could even use 2.5 millimeter, which will be then even still much stronger. Next. So let's look at the question which again and again comes. If there would be a hole, then what would be our remedy for that? Now, the foil is, or the sealant is structured in 4 layers. First, on top of the underground, we have a geofabric here, a white geofabric, which will be put on the red soil. For the first stretch, we had taken 400 grams per square meter. Then on top of the geofabric comes the foil, the polyethylene here. Next picture. Then on top of the polyethylene comes again a geofabric, which is a mat. There we have taken a relatively thick one, 1,200 gram per square meter. Here you see the whole first lake section foiled with geofabric. And then on top of that, next, we have a 30 centimeter layer of granite chips. And on top of that, this is distributing the load so well that on top of that you can even go with a caterpillar or an excavator, or you can drive with a car. It doesn't matter. It distributes the load so well. So these four are the layers. Then now, let us say, which is very unlikely, but let us say there would be a protrusion, there would be a stone which would make a hole in the HDPE foil. Then on top of these granite chips, there will be some sediments settling and being on top. Are there people here who are diving actually? Is there, okay, Birgitta, that's all? So we are the only two divers here. Okay. So if you have been diving in a sweetwater lake, next picture, you will see that these sediments over the ground, they are not solid. It's not that they fall down and then you have, let's say, red earth. They are like a pulp, and then it will get thinner, 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 and it will form kind of like a sauce or something, and then you have really like a layer where the sediments stop, like you see here in this thing. Mostly when one dives either in the open sea, there it's totally different, or in lakes which have a rocky underground. But if there are some sediments, you have that type of sauce on top of the ground. And if there would be a hole somewhere where the water would flow out, you would immediately see it. You would see like a funnel where the water is sucked in. So by inspecting the ground of the lake, you can easily detect where is a hole. It would be different if there would be an underwater plantation. If all is full of plants, then it's difficult to detect a hole. But in 10-meter depth, where there is not enough light for plants to grow, it will be very easy to detect a leakage. If one wouldn't detect it and it leaks for a long time, then there is the danger that where the water goes through the foil, it forms a cavity below. It goes then down in the aquifer, and if that cavity gets bigger and bigger and bigger and forms a big hollow space below the foil, then the foil may break, and then of course you have a major damage. But if you detect the leakage early, then it's relatively easy to repair. But it doesn't really happen very often. When I was talking to Mark Meissner, the engineer of Naue, they don't even have a fixed procedure to fix holes because it never happens. But silicone is actually bonding very well to HDPE. Next picture. And silicone also has the advantage that it's not afraid of water. Water actually is one part which is required for silicone to bond. Many silicones are humidity bonding silicones. And if you take an HDPE plate and put a thick layer of 100% silicone on top and would press it on a hole and then let it cure, maybe here you could put even a stone then on top of the plate, then it would bond, it would close a small hole perfectly well. Now we have quite a bit of experience with silicon. The Matrimandir contains 2.5 million gold tiles which have been glued with silicon, and we have done at that time our homework quite well. We had made accelerated weathering tests with this material structural glazing, where we simulated 100 years of exposure in 1.5 years, having it in an institute in Rosenheim in the accelerated weathering cupboard. And still the bonding was so strong that rather the glass tile broke than the silicone coming off. And if you see that from 2.5 million gold tiles, not a single one has fallen off from the Matrimandir, you may assess how well we did our homework. That imagine a building with 2.5 million tiles, and in 20 years, not a single one has come off. So I think you can trust us that when we envisage a technical solution, that it will also hold. Now, for next picture, there are even companies which are specialized in underwater glues for swimming pools and all that. So, for example, here in Germany, this TP Edge is a company. They even have special products for underwater gluing. So, to repair a whole small hole in the lake is not a big problem. To detect it, we had in the early stages, even in the early building applications which we had sent to TDC, I think, we had proposed a system of humidity sensors where you have all cables below the lake foil with humidity sensors, and then if there would be a leakage, you get an alarm. But these are difficult to maintain. If a mouse bites through a cable, then it's gone. There are other methods, like you have a kind of a drainage where you collect the water in a slump and then you see if some water collects. But all this is actually quite outdated. Today you can have even remote sensing from drones. There are such sensitive methods. I know somebody who sells software where via satellite lights you can assess the thickness of a pebble layer for underground, for people who make big ponds where they dig out pebbles. So with remote sensing today you can find out everything. So one could even, with remote sensing, with drones, you could see if the humidity on the side of the lake would change. But the simplest way, of course, is instead of investing a lot in leak detection systems, if we just would make the foil 0.5 millimeter thicker and would increase the geofabric below from 400 gram to maybe 1,000 or 1,200 gram per square meter, then it's practically impossible that anything protrudes this thing. So the question of a small hole is actually not such a big thing, but we will approach Sika Chemie, that's a company in Switzerland who is actually manufacturing the structural glazing which we have used for gluing the tiles, and we are still very good customers of them. Next. Here you see a picture where a company of ours, Golden Glass, has made some temple roofs. We just last month finished that subject where we made some roofs for a Shiva temple in the Himalayas near Rishikesh, and we are still importing quite a good quantity of silicone from Sika Chemie. So if we tell them we want them to make a special research on what material would bond HDPE. I think they will do it. Now, 2-3 words to Golden Glass, because, next picture, because Golden Glass is one of the companies, like Aditi Diamonds or Varuna, which is quite involved also in Oroville without many people knowing it. For example, the land of the desalination plant is in the name of Golden Glass. The triangle is in the name of Golden Glass. All these crystals in the Garden of Existence and many materials have been imported by Golden Glass and then been donated to Matrimandir. We still make sometimes spare discs for Matrimandir, which they give to donors. All this is done in Golden Glass. It's in the Metropolitan Industrial Estate. Next picture. Okay, so next one. Now, let's look at the technical people who are supporting us. LGA, the Landesgewerbeanstalt Nürnberg, is, I think, the most reputed scientific institute in Germany. It has around 2,000 scientists. And since the late 90s, we have actually solved all the technical issues of Matrimandir in Germany. Many of them with the scientists of LGA. That means you can hire a scientist. You have a certain question in a certain field. You go there, you identify the scientist, and then you pay, I don't know, 250, 300 euro per hour, and he works out a solution for you. For example, the waterproofing of Matrimandir had been designed by LGA and the lake. They have accompanied since the first day when we started planning with Harald Kraft's proposal and all that. These two, Carlo Schillinger and Jochen Köhler, they have been quite a number of times here in Oroville, and we have done a number of research projects regarding the lake. Carlo Schillinger is a geologist. Jochen Köhler is also a geologist, but specialized in underwater biology. So all our, and they have been doing the biggest water projects in Germany. For example, next picture, the Brombach Lake, which is a lake, I think, which has 18 square kilometer area. It's an artificial lake. They have done the Rhine-Main water channel, which connects the North Sea to the Black Sea via the Danube, the Main, and the Rhine. So they really know about how to go about artificial water bodies. And each question what we have regular meetings where Dirk, who was in Oroville, living in Oroville for a long time, and who now and then comes also, who is a water engineer, then Harald Kraft, who is a water engineer, Carlo and Jochen and myself, we regularly meet in Nuremberg. If necessary, we have a video conference with an hour specialists or whatever, and then we discuss the issues, whatever it is, and we take our decisions regarding the lake construction. So scientist-wise or backup, we are, I think, quite well equipped, much more than what might be even necessary. And at the spot, that is Said from Naue, who is doing the foiling. So, nothing is just done into the blue without us really studying every detail, and we are being accompanied. So I think you should have some confidence that what we do there is not just some nonsense, but we will deliver a perfect product. But I must say, it requires that you then let us do our job. If everybody comes and he wants to have this, and he wants to have that, and that one wants to have another, and that one wants to have a tree here, and that one wants to have a bush there, and that one those fish, and that one that, then we can't do our job. But if we can do what we think is right, I think the product which we will deliver will be quite nice. Next. Now let's look at the research which we have done in the first section of the lake. There are three groups of questions what we had. The most important one, of course, is can we do it at all? Is it feasible, all like building it in sections with Lego block walls, how we can handle the HDPE foil, all these things. One main argument of those people who were against the lake or who were against us building the lake was always that it's too big a project, it's impossible for Oroville to do it. Now, when we are doing it, it looks that there's nothing like that. It's just flows, and it's not at all impossible. But this was, of course, one big question. Is it possible to have such a first class, according to the most modern technology and with a depth of 10 meters, is it possible to do a water storage lake here in Oroville or not? The other group of questions is, of course, technical questions like how to repair a hole, underwater biology, how to control algae growth and all that. And the third big research part was, is it feasible to do water harvesting with water storage compared to desalination? That was always the big question, because in an area like ours, where most of the rain comes down in the monsoon time in 6 to 8 weeks, and then you have to store the water maybe till the next summer if you want to use it, then the most costliest part of such an arrangement is the storage facility. And in the traditional way that you have underground tanks, let's say the underground tank below Matrimandir, which is just a concrete tank, storage of 1 cubic meter will cost you something like 10,000 rupees or so. And then it becomes absolutely unfeasible. If you can desalinate a cubic meter of water for 50 rupees or 30 rupees, and storage facility for water harvesting costs you per cubic meter 10,000 rupees, then it makes absolutely no sense. Also from the environmental point of view, if you make big concrete storages, concrete is one of the most aggressive polluters in terms of carbon dioxide. So there has to be another way. And so the question is, water harvesting feasible? From the economic point of view, from the ecological point of view, compared to desalination, that was one big question. And there, the situation looks like that now. After having finished the first section of the lake, we have a fairly clear picture what the whole lake will cost. Most of the expenses we have already behind us. These are the two big Lego block walls. And then, of course, excavation and foiling. That means we have purchased the excavators, we have purchased lorries, we have purchased sheep food roller compactors and so on. And now the rest is actually foiling and excavation. The Lego blocks walls we will use again and again. They are movable, so we will take out one, put it in the next, then flood it, then take out the wall and put it in the next. So we know what the whole lake will cost. It will cost us approximately 70 crores. And we can use, that is also a very relevant question, we can use each cubic meter of storage approximately 1.4 times. That means it's not that only in the monsoon we'll fill it up and then we have to store the water till the next monsoon. But to our great surprise, even the summer monsoon brought this year a lot of water in, and we actually had quite miscalculated the height of our walls because we were not expecting that the evaporation is so little and the recharge from the summer monsoon is so strong. So in the end, we had to pump out nearly 80 centimeter water just into the meadow because we had expected that the water level before the next monsoon will only be maximum 4.5 to 5 meters, but it showed that it was much more. So actually you can utilize 1 cubic meter of storage volume approximately 1.4 times. And so if you calculate then the costs for a period of 10 years that you say, okay, how much is 1 cubic meter storage costing us? If you write off the installation costs of the lake over 10 years, then you come to approximately 50 rupee per cubic meter compared, and the running cost of a storage is negligible, let's say 3 rupees per cubic meter. So the cost for 1 cubic meter storage of runoff water will come to 53 to 55 rupees. In desalination, it is that the operating costs of the plant, that means mostly electricity, will come to around 20 rupees per cubic meter. And the installation cost of the plant will come to around 30 rupees. So it's comparable, it's more or less the same. The storage of runoff harvested water comes to the same price of the creation of desalinated water. Now, desalinated water has in areas where near the coast, of course, advantages because the runoff water, if you harvest and store, is not drinking water. It's water which you can use for irrigation, or you have to purify it further to make it into drinking water, while the desalinated water is already pure drinking water. And then one has to think also that the whole collection system for the runoff water will also cost a lot of money, but in a city like Orville, which after some time 30% of the areas will be sealed, whether roads or places or roofs, you have to do something in any case with the runoff water. You cannot just let it do what it wants to do. So for a coastal area, desalinated water has some advantages, but then if you go 50 or 100 kilometers inside the countryside, then of course desalination is no more feasible because the transport of the desalinated water will cost too much. But this was one of the major questions which we had, to compare water harvesting with desalination, and my opinion in that thing also changed. Before this experiment, I was thinking that water harvesting stands nowhere compared to desalination, but now I see that it's actually runoff water harvesting also makes sense, especially if it's not directly at the coastline. But here the research actually is done. So if we would now wait and let the first section of the lake remain for a year or 2 or 3, we wouldn't gain any further information from that. This part of the research is over. The other part with is it doable or not. Also with the first completion of the first part of the section is finished, we had a lot of challenges and problems even to procure all the material. For example, the long arm excavator. It was such a hassle to get that long arm. We paid it in advance, then it would never come and all that. But okay, all the machinery now is in place. We know how to slope the shores. We know how to compact the underground. We know how to put the foil. So that part of research also is over, which was, of course, a test in the sense that if we would not have managed to build the first part of the lake, then of course it would have been a problem to finish the whole lake. But now, after the first part is successfully finished, that type of research also is done. And the third part, let's see, are there some more questions? Yeah, the third part also. Okay, let's quickly go through the questions. So, cost comparison between desalination plant and water harvesting we have already spoken about. Next. At what ratio we can utilize our storage? It is around 1.4 cubic meter per cubic meter storage. Next. How easy or difficult it is to install an open water body with HDPE foil. That also was, of course, one of the questions which we had, but this we are absolutely fine now. I think we have acquired the capacity to do that. Next. How to handle HDPE foil. There still site is required. It takes you need a lot of experience to really handle it. A few years maybe to work with it, but I think at the end, when the lake is finished, we will have a team which is experienced enough to construct other open water bodies with HDPE foil in Oroville or in the area or wherever. Here you see we are doing it mostly in the night, because during the daytime from the sun the HDPE foil gets very hot, 70-80 degrees, and then you can't seal it anymore. Next. Now one very big part of it is the temporary walls made out of Lego blocks. We had to first learn how to make Lego blocks, get the molds made, get a big mixer in place. But now it goes quite smooth to erect a wall also with the equipment, with our big excavator with a long arm. And we can build the lake in sections. That means now, as you all know, we have 2 Lego block walls in which the first part is, which is filled now. Then we make a third Lego wall 200 meters further. Then we flood it. That means we let the water go in, so it distributes in both the parts. We take out all the Lego blocks from the middle, use that as the next wall and the next wall. And then we have the foundations on which the Lego blocks are standing. They will remain. We won't take them out. And that will give us the possibility that later on, if we want to change something, let's say zero, we first make the whole lake finished. Then if zero, which is supposed to come inside the lake a little bit, we want to do that part. We put the 2 walls in this section back. We waterproof it again. Then we pump out the water from there into the other part of the lake. And because the surface area is much wider than the bottom, if we pump out from one part the water to the rest of the lake, the water level in the rest of the lake will rise only maybe 60 centimeter. So we don't lose any water. If we want to do a major change or a major repair, or we want to change something in the shoreline or whatever, we can put back the Lego block walls, we foil it, we waterproof it, we take out the water, we do our change, and then we flood it again, we take out the Lego blocks. So that gives us the possibility to change whatever we want, even after 10, 20, 30 years in the lake, without emptying all the water and without the Matrimandir Lake losing its function, because it will have a very important function for Oroville, for the Oroville water system, distribution system, and most probably also for the electricity system. So the function of the lake also has to be secured, not that it's only a decorative problem that all of a sudden the lake is without water, but the function of the lake also has to be kept. And with these department walls, which I think we have mastered quite well, we are in the position to make any change in the lake, whatever, without disturbing the whole water body. Next. This is what we were just talking about. Next. Now, one big question where we had heated discussions also amongst our scientists, where Harald Kraft always was pleading to have a 10-meter deep water body, and other scientists said that it's better you make the water body so shallow that from everywhere still plants will grow, because the plants will produce oxygen, and all the area below 5 meters is counterproductive for the oxygen household of the water. This question, of course, is a very tricky question, and we see now already that sometime Jan recently has measured the oxygen content in the lake. On some days when it's cloudy, it looks that it's double than on a day where it's sunny and it gets hot. So there we still will see a development, but the final equilibrium and our final knowledge can be there only when it's finished and when it's a full circle and we have a current. Unfortunately, we cannot make now a study how the current, which I think will develop, how it will come about, because right now we have the big hill at the side where we have the small lake on top, and that shields off that part where afterwards the wind will touch the surface best. Otherwise, we would have installed maybe some weather station all around the lake and seen how strong is the wind at which point, and from there you can then make a dynamic model and see what would be the current flow, but it's not possible because the area now is not what it will be in future. But here also, if we don't do what the scientists tell us, and we have, I don't know, peninsulas with trees where all the leaves will fall in the lake, then you cannot maintain a good water quality. The parameters for the water quality is mainly two things. Number one is the biomass intrusion. If you have a lot of leaves falling in or other things, and you have a lot of nitrates and nitrates in the lake, then it's very difficult to maintain a good water quality. The positive factors are the bigger the surface area is, the more wave formation you get, and more oxygen intrusion through wind is coming in. So this is always these two counterparts. You can, of course, try to increase the oxygen level with a fontaine, which you see sometimes in lakes, and there are all kinds of stuff. But the research for this also would not give us any additional knowledge if we keep the first section of the lake now as it is, because even from one day to the other, the oxygen level changes. And definitely with the next section, where we have double the area, we have a totally different situation again. And when it's completely finished, we have again a different situation. And if we sit and look at this lake now for a year or 2 or 3, we are not wiser after 3 years. So here still, of course, a development will come. You can do something also by consciously choosing the species of fish and other animals inside the lake. Next. Algae growth is the same situation. There are miles of bookshelves filled with books on this subject. Here also we will have to see where it goes. We have to see which algae finally grow. Then we have to study what we could do to counteract if it gets out of control. But this is also something where we don't gain much more knowledge now if we sit for 3 years and look at it. Next. The whole we have already discussed. Detecting leakage also we have discussed. Now the additional functions for a water storage system. I was very surprised to hear when Jan told me that there seems to be some kind of strange feeling about our underwater cushion in the Matrimandir Lake with some of the community members. The mother was not at all against the Matrimandir Lake fulfilling a very practical role. Roger had told the mother, we'll have a quotation at the end of the presentation. Roger had told the mother his idea of what practical function the Matrimandir Lake could have by saying that the water could flow down from the lake into the communities, then it could be purified at some purification plant at the outskirts, and from there it could be pumped where it is required for irrigation and all. And the mother was quite positive about that and reported that, told that to Satprem. So the mother was not at all of this opinion that this is a holy lake and should be only for decorative purposes, not at all. And we were all with thinking what practical functions could the Matrimandir Lake have for the community. And now, right now, we see 2 additional functions. One is the storage of drinking water in the underwater cushion. The cushions anyway will not at all be visible. They will be 5 meters below the lake surface. And we could store up to 500,000 cubic meter of drinking water in the Matrimandir Lake without anybody noticing anything. And it was always a big question for us, once the desalination plant is up and running, should we really just pump it into the lake and mix it with the dirty runoff water while it is such a valuable asset, pure drinking water? And by separating it and using the underwater cushions, we have solved this problem. And the Matrimandir Lake can store drinking water for the community, which now itself with the first cushion which we are sinking it down the next few days. We will first use it for Matrimandir internal purposes, because the Matrimandir underground water tank and all that is not big enough to contain enough water for the air condition, the cooling for the air condition and irrigation in some times of the summer. So we can use the first cushion for Matrimandir, which will be very helpful. And then the next one, we will connect, Luca will connect to the water system of Oroville, where they were thinking of building additional tanks, which now they won't, because we can use the water foil cushions at Matrimandir. So the water cushions, that is one interesting additional function for the Matrimandir Lake. The other one is the hydropower storage, where we have a small, we had in the first meeting you have seen, we have built a small hill. We have ordered the turbine now. We are now enlarging that small lake on that earth heap, which is 15 meter high. We make it 3 times the size. And we are aiming, let's see if we come to that point, we are aiming that we can store there enough electricity from the solar plant that we can enlarge the solar plant of Matrimandir to a size where Matrimandir can run all its electrical equipment from its own solar plant and from the stored energy in the mini lake on top of the hill. We could then, if we succeed, let's see, run Matrimandir ideally in an island mode so that it's supported by its own solar energy. Now, for the whole of Oroville, this hydropower storage has a much bigger relevance. The next step would be when we have the hill, that we have upper lake there, and then we have a hydropower storage between the Matrimandir Lake as the lower lake and the lake 30 meter higher on the hill as the upper lake. But the final, the best thing would be, of course, if we have the Matrimandir as the upper lake and 50 meters lower at the beach to have the lower lake. Next picture. Yeah. No, the picture. Yeah. No, can you put the picture? Yeah. Here you see from our desalination plant area, we have laid the pipelines already nearly a kilometer under the East Coast Road and Gunnar School and close to Mango Hill. And we have put 2 big pipes inside. One is for bringing the drinking water to the Matrimandir area, and the other one is for the uphill power storage. So we have envisaged at that time maybe a lower lake somewhere at the beach. Now we have to see if we can utilize the foil cushion in the open sea. Then it would of course be the easiest. We just provide the lower storage in the open sea, and we have the connection with the Matrimandir, and then we could store 17,500 kilowatt hour per day. With this storage, that means we could run Oroville nearly, with the present population anyway, but even with 50,000 people, we could run it to a big extent with our own solar energy, which we store in the Matrimandir Lake. And that is now the 17,500 kilowatt hours is with a 1 meter variation of the lake level, which on top of it, it is that it's the lowest in the night when anyway nobody sees it. Then during the day when the sun shines, it is full and we pump the water out. We pump the water up into the lake. Next. Now, how safe and durable is the HDPE foil? We have talked about that also. We have 100 years guaranteed performance. Next. How to prepare the lake bed before the foiling? That was a big issue which we were thinking a lot and we were working on a lot. But I think now we also have got enough experience for that. And there is also no reason for this question to wait now and look at the existing lake. Next. The evaporation, that is a very interesting point. We had more than 10 years ago already made our first test pond with the LGA being present at that time physically. They were doing it at Matrimandir. We sealed that one with mixing bentonite with red earth. We got bentonite from Jaipur area and all that. And there we measured, John was doing the work mostly. We measured very minutely the evaporation every day, sometimes several times per day. We were putting up evaporation pans inside the water, so to make sure that the water temperature in the evaporation pans is the same as in the water body and all that. And we came to an evaporation which was much more than what is written in the books. The school knowledge is that in our area we have 40 centimeter over evaporation in a water body. That means we have a total evaporation over the year of 1.7 meter, and we have a rainfall of 1.3 meter. So a water body evaporates 40 centimeter every year more than what it is replenished. And in our first test pond, our measurements, they gave us the picture that the evaporation would be much, much more. And now, based on that experience, we made our calculations for the first section of the lake. And now all of a sudden we found that the evaporation now is much, much less. We were surprised that sometimes the water level over a few days was not going down nearly at all, while it was, sun was shining and there was no rain. So obviously, in a big water surface, humidity is saturating the air on top of the lake and blocks the evaporation, which in a small pond is not the case because the wind blows away the air on top of the water body. So anyway, there will be big surprises, and the bigger the lake surface will be, I presume, the better the ratio of evaporation. With a 10-meter deep water body, according to the school knowledge anyway, we would have only 4% of evaporation every year compared to the stored water. But it looks that the ratio even will be better. Next. So now the big question which we are discussing internally at Matrimandir also a lot is, should one leave the first section of the lake as it is now and wait for 3 years and look at it, and I don't know what one wants to see then, or should we continue? According to what were our questions for research for the lake, all the questions have been answered, except maybe a few which anyway cannot be answered if we don't progress. So from the point of view of now testing the lake, I don't see any reason why we should not proceed with the work. HDPE foiled lakes have been made in thousands, and we don't have to prove now that HDPE foil holds water. That's not the purpose of the test. All the questions which we had are answered, and now the whole thing is in a flow. We have purchased 2 big excavator, a very big excavator, a Kobelco, a JCB. We have purchased lorries, we have sheet foot rollers, we have all the equipment in place. And now if we think that we can put the lake project into coma and then wake it up in 3 years again and it will be the same as before, this is ridiculous. all the machinery will be rusted, or we give it out on lease, then it will be broken, half will not be there anymore, or half of the workers who are trained now, they will have disappeared. There is a financial flow now where the whole thing is in a move, and if we kill the project now, it will not be easy to revive it after 3 years. It will cost us crores and crores, which is a complete wastage. We lose 3 years of time. So I think this idea that now we should stop and look at this first section of the lake makes absolutely no sense. So we have to continue. It would be highly irresponsible, and it would be a kind of mismanagement and huge wastage if now we don't continue. The whole thing is rolling now, and it's like that. The thing is manifesting. The gin is out of the bottle. You won't get it back, and the lake will manifest. So from my point of view, we can discuss afterwards. It makes absolutely no sense to stop now and look at that first section, and then I don't know what we should gain in that. Next. So now our desalination plant. Here you see at the time when we were afraid that the receding beaches would eat into our compound. Actually, a small part, even before the groins were made, was going down into the sea. But here you see there is a groin, which is the last groin of a series of groins which the government has made. And by that, they have stabilized the beaches. So at least that danger that our land will go away is not there anymore. Next. Now, something about the general water situation. Over many million years, we had the rainfall replenishing the aquifers or filling the aquifers, and there was a strong underground current flowing towards the sea and flowing under the seawater in these aquifer layers, which are basically clay layers. So the fresh water is separated from the seawater. So below the sea there is a huge freshwater bubble. But now, next picture. Now much more water is being pumped up by the bore wells in all our area than what is replenished. There are studies of some French institutes that up to 6 or 7 times the water is pumped up what goes back by rainfall. So now we have a situation where more and more the groundwater level is below sea level, and that means that the direction of the underwater current has changed. Now the water is not flowing from the land towards the sea, it's flowing from the sea towards the land and then going into the lower groundwater level. And there is a point when the salt water will hit the coastline, and from that day onwards, then when the freshwater bubble is exhausted, salt water will intrude into the groundwater. Now one could think that our desalination plant should be ready at this point in time, but this is absolutely a wrong concept. We have to start producing desalinated water much before, because every cubic meter of desalinated water which is pumped inline replenishes the aquifer. That means our desalination plant is aiming at 5,000 cubic meter per day. So first of all, 5,000 cubic meter desalinated water, if it is brought onto the shore, it replaces the pulling up of 5,000 cubic meter from the groundwater by bore well. And then on top of it, that desalinated water which comes, it's being used, and then after usage it will go in the aquifer and replenish the aquifer. So by desalinating water, you ease out this relation, or you improve this relation from pumping up to replenishment. And we should add, as soon as we can, desalinated water to the mix of water, so that we in Oroville are not adding to the water problem by consuming more than what the aquifers get replenished. So we have to see that we commission that plant as soon as possible. We cannot really wait until then the salt water intrudes into the groundwater. Next. Now, our desalination plant is supposed to be for sure the most ecologically friendly plant in India, but maybe one of the world's most ecological plants. First, we will not use any chemicals at all. Then we will drive the plant by 100% green energy, that means solar or wind. Then we are using a so-called ERS, energy recovery system, I will explain you later, which reduces the electricity consumption to half or less than half. And then the most harming feature of a desalination plant is the forming of a brine carpet on the seabed. I will explain you later what it is. So now to the chemicals. There are mainly two reasons why the traditional desalination plants use chemicals. One is that the water is pressed through a membrane, and the plankton in the water, the living organisms, they clog the membrane. So usually you flake them out with chlorines, which of course are quite poisonous, so that they don't clog the membrane. Now we won't do that. We lead the water through quartz pipes, which are UV transparent, and we expose it to a high UV radiation, and we kill the plankton with UV radiation and not with chemicals. And then we filter it out with an ultrafiltration system before the water comes to the foil. The other reason why chemicals are used are the oysters. Oysters, male oysters give their sperm in the water, and the female the eggs. And then when they unite, the larvae, wherever they sit then on solid ground, there they stick themselves to it and they remain their whole life. That's why you see oysters at the bottoms of ships, even at the skin of whales, and in a big pipe which sucks in the water. Of course, these larvae will be sucked in, they will stick there, and they will love this environment because they live off the small organisms in the water, and there they have a strong current, so they will grow very fast. And then they start clogging the pipes after some time, and then usually this is cleaned out by just flooding the pipes with hydrochloric acid, which dissolves the shells of the oyster, and then the whole mass is washed into the sea with all that acid. Now we won't use that. We will use robots to clean the pipes. So we won't use chemicals. Green energy is clear. We will purchase windmills, and we will need 3 to 4 windmills for the plant once it goes in full swing, and then we'll wheel the energy there. Now the energy recovery system, next picture, is that you have a high pressure pump which pumps the water through the membranes, and then you have first a salt content of 4.5% in the usual salt water, and when you pump the water through the membrane, on the other side of the membrane you get the fresh water, but that means that the salt will remain before the membrane, and the salt content will get higher and higher, and once it reaches 6.5%, then you have to adequately increase the pressure because you have to counteract the osmotic pressure. And then you need so much pressure that it becomes unviable, and you release this 6.5% 60% salt water back into the sea. And this water is under very high pressure, so usually you just let it shoot into the sea. But we will have an energy regain system which uses that pressure to build up the pressure of the fresh seawater which comes to the membrane. And in that way, we can reduce our energy consumption by up to 60%. So this is what is called an energy regain system. It's a little bit difficult to maintain, but it reduces your electricity consumption considerably. And the last and maybe most important point is that when that brine is released into the sea, then it has a salt content of 6.5%. That means it is much more heavy than the ordinary seawater. It sinks immediately down and forms a carpet on the seabed. And because of the high pressure, it doesn't have any oxygen anymore inside. So it kills all the eggs or whatever which are in the seabed because it has no oxygen. So you have to have a concept where this formation of heavy water carpet doesn't happen. Now in our case, we have planned the release point of the brine 500 meters out into the sea at a location. We have done a lot of bathymetric studies, how are the currents there, and calculated everything. So in our case, we will not have the formation of that carpet. But if you see, for example, the big desalination plant in Chennai, it releases 450,000 cubic meters of brine every day and has only 200 meters from the coastline the release point. So the whole bay of Chennai is dead because of that. I would have never given permission for such a plant. So these are the 4 points which we want to implement in our desalination plant, and it's planned not only for providing Oroville with drinking water, but as a model plant which we want to then propagate for other communities at the coastline so that they also may think of an environmentally friendly desalination. You must have heard that Pondicherry now has decided to set up a desalination plant. And these plants usually are all the traditional plants, which are not very nice. Now, next point. Where do we stand with our desalination plant? We have lost about 4 years because the forest department had refused to give us permission for the plant, saying that it would disturb or prevent the sea turtles from nesting and putting their eggs at the beach. I have never seen a sea turtle there, but doesn't matter. We have now made a proposal to the forest department in Viluppuram that we open up our compound wall for the sea turtles and they can come in and nest there. And that has been accepted. Next. And in January last year, there you see the forest ranger, one Miss Ashwati. She has inspected our site and given green light, and now the Viluppuram Forest Department is recommending our plant. Now the documents have gone to Chennai, and we hope we'll get the permission there soon. And then it goes to Delhi, and once we get the final approval, then we can start erecting it and producing desalinated water. Next. So now the last point. How would an Oroville water management system look in Oroville with the Matrimandir Lake having certain functions in it? Matrimandir is the highest point in Oroville. It's 50 meters above sea level, some even 55. And so from there, it would be the ideal place to distribute drinking water into the community by gravity. Now that we can store both runoff water, harvested runoff water and drinking water in the Matrimandir Lake, it makes sense to separate the two waters and have two water systems, one for grey water for irrigation and one for drinking water or household water. Both can be stored in the Matrimandir Lake separately with the underwater foil cushion. And we should, in any case, have a water harvesting system for the town where we bring all the harvested water to the Matrimandir or to some storage lake around the hillside, which will be connected by pipes to the Matrimandir Lake. And from there distribute by gravity the drinking water and the gardening and irrigation water into the communities. And it's interesting that finally we come relatively close to what Roger had proposed to the mother, and she then had told to Satprem that one could even let the water flow in open rivulets to communities. That, of course, would be only the case for the irrigation water, and then or could get water purified in some plants at the outskirts. And then, of course, as we discussed before, we would also have the aspect of using the Matrimandir Lake as uphill power storage. So I think once the desalination plant is in place, one would have, in any case, a centralized sewage system that we collect the sewage water. We reprocess it. In many big cities, the water is reprocessed up to 5, 6, 7 times, and then use it only for grey water, in addition with harvested runoff water, and the drinking water use desalinated water and run a system where we store it at Matrimandir and from there distribute it to the city. That seems to be the water management system which makes most sense. Next. We have put for you a number of information dossiers on our website. For example, we had done a study where we had 10 core drillings in the lake bed and 10 core drillings in the area of the future hill, and got that analyzed by a research institute in Surat. And so some of these things we are still trying to find it out. Now that that request had come, we will put more and more information about these things on our Varuna website, so there you can find maybe additional information. Next. Roger's quote we haven't put. Okay. Okay, good. So now if you want to have a small break, or otherwise if you want to start with questions immediately. So I think you.
Hello? Okay, now we'll move to the questions and answers. So comparing to the previous time, so we have two major differences. So as Michael said, there will be no deadline, so everybody will have a chance, but there is a strong request for you to speak into the mic, because majority of viewers are watching it through online. Last time it was almost 1,000 people. So Rohan is here. Rohan, please raise your hand. Yeah. So you can raise your hand as high as possible so Rohan can see you and take down your name. I see Krista was the first. So yeah, Krista is first. Yes, and please speak only into the mic and wait patiently for your turn. Everybody will get a chance. Okay. Krista, I'm coming. Wait.
You hear me? Like that? Okay. Michael, I approached the Matrimandir executive about 3 weeks ago following a memory I had, which is backed by 3 sources. that includes, one is Pachi, you know him. Second is Jacqueline from Roger. And the third is the city plans for the center of the city by Anupama Kundu. So I just share with you what I shared with the executive, is that there is a hill in the plan of Roger. It's shown in all the plans of Anupama, which is situated next to the Varuna, the Siru building. Okay? So I am not knowing if you were aware of this fact. I have only one question to you.
I am actually not aware of that.
Yeah, I was almost sure you were not. So therefore, obvious question, I am mostly interested professionally by the interface between the lake as in a Harald Kraft study, which I have reread entirely, he just sent it back to me, okay? And the water reaching the top of the people. That is this interface I am interested in, okay? So, why I mention this? Because suddenly I thought maybe it could be part of the system of storing water. This hill is called a viewpoint, was always planned, is there on the map, on the plan you can see, and could be maybe used as an alternative storage facility to a hill situated far away at a lower altitude in the green belt, just for your consideration. My only question to you is today, I have mentioned the interface between having water in a lake, okay, and how it reaches the people. I don't see for the time being any plan drawings. I could not find anything. The only thing I've been finding, and I learned a lot today from what you said, by the way, is Harald Kraft study seems to have been the basis for what you are doing. Yes or no?
Okay, Christo. Now,
just one more.
I often remember when we were in Le Cresté and discussed the lake together with Roger, you remember, and then I dropped you somewhere in the Pampas. Actually, the Harald Kraft study is not at all the base of the water management system what we have now.
Good.
Because Harald had his main storage was not the lake, his main storage was the aquifer. He said we should collect the rainwater and then purify it and then infiltrate it into the aquifer in a systematic manner. But we now proceed from the concept that after some time the aquifers will be saline. So to collect the water and infiltrate it into the aquifers will not make much sense, number one. Number two, we have now 3,500 Orvillian, let's say, and we have in our area 350,000 non-Orvillians, and the aquifer is shared by everyone. So our whole system to be based on the aquifer means that we use the same water management system as all the rest of India, which we don't want to. We want to have a completely distinct system, which is much more ecologically friendly and all that. So we have since long given up on this Harald's concept, and he also is part of our group where we always meet, but this part of his study that we use the aquifer as storage is not at all on the table anymore. And the interface between the lake and the communities would be right now, as far as I see, but we have to discuss that with the town planning group, of course, would be a double piping system where we have drinking water in one pipe system and irrigation or grey water in another system, and then also have a centralized sewage system, because if you have an individualized system or small water cells everywhere with a underground tank and then a pump and overhead tanks and all that, it is much, much more costly and also a big stress on the environment. All these, whatever you construct is a stress on the environment. And if you centralize that and have only a few parameters and link them with HDPE pipe, that's the best you can have, but we have to now. The thing with the Matrimandir Lake changes a lot, the whole concept. You may know the concept of Gilles Boulicaud, who had the concept of having small desalination plants inside the countryside, which is, I think, absolutely impossible, because then his concept was to pull out saline water, desalinate it there and distribute it to the surrounding area, which means that you pull salt water underground to there, pump it up, then desalinate it there. What will you do with the brine and all that? So now, with the lake coming up and the new features for the lake, the whole concept of our water distribution system will change, because any new element has an impact. So we would have to sit and see how we redesign the water management system.
Thank you, Michael. Just thank you very much. I have one just un ébité, yeah?
Okay.
A plea. The same way, the pre-feasibility study of Harald gave very clear indication about feelings. I know, of course, the first aquifer, etc. Now you just tell we have gone to a different system. Could you kindly make available to us, everybody, your concept in a similar form, on a written paper where most of the steps you have been exposing today are described, okay? In a very comprehensive, we are not having nothing. We have only your word for it, which is fine. I know the incredible amount of work and expertise which is behind what you say. But a paper, something simple, you know, that even a layman can read, would come a great help to understand what you are trying to achieve, and even invite maybe others to build on that through their knowledge.
We have
I
already,
just suggest that. Okay,
yeah.
I think it's a must.
We have put this paper which you have in hand also on the Varuna website, and there in bullet points the concept is given, but of course one should sit and see how to style the water management system of Oroville. It was always actually a point where Tuan, he had once employed or brought in an electrical engineer who made an electrical master plan for Oroville. We should have a professional water engineer designing a water management system for Oroville. This is an urgent requirement, yeah. But this is maybe more a requirement for you or for TDC than for us. Our function is to produce the desalination water, to make the storage, make the lake the hill, and there it ends. But the planning of the Oroville water management system is the resort of the TDC.
Hi, Michael. This is Giulio. If you don't mind, I sit because my leg is paining, and I have a few questions. I take your word about giving some time. I don't have a single question. I have several questions. I hope you allow me the time. So, you said, and I have also some clarification to ask. First of all, I would like to say thank you for your work and for what you do. Nevertheless, you introduced yourself saying, let us do our job. So my first question is, who gave you this job. So in the sense, what is your formal relationship between Varuna and the Matrimandir team and Orville? And when I say formal, I refer to a specific, if there is a specific contract about it or what. I remember in a meeting some years ago, you were present in that meeting, somebody spoke on your behalf saying that Matrimandir is a client and Varuna is executing agency. Can you please clarify this point? You want me to go on with the next question?
No, let's take
Thank you.
one question after the other. Okay, my formal link with Varuna is that I'm owning 200% Varuna Private Limited, which has some windmills and which is donating the electricity to Oroville. And Varuna Private Limited also owns quite some lands. We have purchased, for example, 25 acres of land in the Greenbelt, in the hill area, and in other areas. We have purchased a lot of land for Oroville. And Varuna is the project holder for the Desalination Plant. That means Varuna Private Limited. And we have formed one unit, Varuna Oroville, to which Varuna Private Limited has donated 2 windmills, which belong now sort of to the Oroville Foundation, because Varuna Oroville is an Oroville unit. And from there, we wheel the energy, for example, to the high tension zone. That means wherever we produce the energy, then we pull it out here in Oroville and we pay 5% wheeling charges. And being the owner of Varuna Private Limited, of course, I have a certain formal power, but in fact, the actual day-to-day activity is done by the whole team. There are other Varuna directors, for example, Arjun, Rohan, and in the private limited, and they are executives also in Varuna Oroville. I think even Slava, you are an executive? No, not yet. This is the formal thing. But as to what concerns the work, especially in the Matrimandir, I'm proud to say that this is absolutely deregulated. I have no title, no contract. I'm not an Orovillian. I'm absolutely nobody. And that's why I can do what I want. The mother said that the sign of the future society is that we replace rules and regulations by a higher consciousness. Now, unfortunately, Oroville goes absolutely in the opposite direction. We have 125 working groups, and each one makes this rule and that regulation. But when the work is deregulated and one can just work without rules and regulations, I think that's the best.
Okay, I go to, thank you.
But another thing, Varuna in the Matrimandir Lake also plays a role. For example, now the turbine has been ordered by Varuna Private Limited. Varuna Private Limited owns 2 of the excavators at Matrimandir, lorries, equipment, and all that. So Varuna is also physically involved in the lake construction because first, the story started like that. We decided, the Matrimandir executives decided, okay, now we'll go for the lake. That was 4 or 5 years ago. Then to start with, I said, okay, let's buy a lorry. Then I donated 29 lakh to the Matrimandir to buy a lorry. Then after some time, the executive said, yeah, but this and that, and we don't want to own a lorry, and then we have to look after it, and this and that. So I said, okay, forget about the 29 lakh. And then Varuna bought a lorry and gave it to Matrimandir. And then Varuna bought an excavator and all that. So we had to push and give the equipment to Matrimandir, otherwise nothing would have happened. So Varuna Private Limited also is involved in Matrimandir, but also in a totally deregulated way. We have no leasing contract or anything. We just have the equipment there working. That's it.
Thank you. I go to water now. I am very concerned about the source of water. When somebody...
Pardon? You are concerned about what?
On the source of water, which is going to be used...
Source of water, okay.
Yes. Rainfall falling directly on the lake will fill it only for 14%. Runoff falling, collected from the oval will contribute only 3%. So you mentioned today, first time I hear it, that you already start thinking at expanding the runoff catchment area to larger areas within the Oroville city, which is a good thing. But that also means that somehow you have to interface with our planning agency and with our community. So how are you planning to do that? Because that means intervention within the city, not only Matrimandir itself.
Okay, we tell Christo to make a plan and organize it for us. How do you find that? Anyway, it will come naturally. The moment you have a sealed area, you have to do something. Like now, for example, the Crown Road is a big sealed area. So all the water which falls on the Crown Road, we have 1.3 meter rainfall per year. It has to be done something with the water. If not, then it runs wildly into the fields and forms canyons and all that. So automatically, the moment the city will be built, the sealed areas will have to take care of its runoff water. And then we will have to think of pump stations where we collect it and from there pump it to the Matrimandir Lake. And the bigger the lake will get, the more it can absorb. And it will grow harmoniously. I hope that we enlarge our catchment area the moment we enlarge the capacity to hold the collected water.
Yeah, thank you. Still think that that will pose some problem with our bioregion neighbors, but this is not the time for that discussion. I am also concerned about when is the desalination plant going to be operational. And the concern is coming because you plan to have a structure there and cushions and whatever, but it's not clear what water you're going to use to fill the structures and this cushion. Plus, on a different note, just a clarification. You said that to counteract the ingression of seawater, you plan to percolate desalinated water into the ground. But as what I understand here, your desalinated water is not going to be percolated, it's going to be stored. So can you please clarify these two things? Thank you.
We can store the desalinated water anyway, only to a certain extent, but the desalinated water will be used. If we produce 5,000 cubic meter of desalinated water every day, that we were calculating the 5,000 cubic meter, thinking that we have 50,000 Orovillian. Everybody uses 100 liter of water, usually as an average. And when you have taken your shower, then the water after the shower goes, I presume, in your house, in some sewage pond, and from there it will sink into the aquifer. After you use the water, it either is collected in a centralized sewage collection system and reprocessed, which we don't have in Oroville, or at present, after using it, automatically it will go in the aquifer. Where else should it go? So the 5,000 cubic meter of desalinated water, after they are used, it will go in the groundwater, nowhere else.
Yeah, again, I think we can discuss this because 5,000 cubic meter is not enough to supply 50,000 people, is not enough to percolate, is not enough for filling the lake, but it's a matter of calculation. You said also that you plan to distribute by gravity. But the moment you put cushions which are at the bottom of the lake, you already lose some head, some pressure there. So your pumps have to run all the time. Am I wrong in this?
I don't understand why you say my pumps have to run all the time. What do you mean by that?
Because you said that you plan to distribute water by gravity to Oroville City because Matrimandir is the highest point. The topographic surface is the highest point. But if you go down and you put your cushion down, you lose that topographic surface advantage. Not for everything, but for some. So your pump needs to run.
Yeah, I mean, no. Let us say you would have, you can, of course, pump it out from the cushion into the piping system, but even then, let us say they are 5 meters below the surface of the Matrimandir Lake, which is the highest point in Oroville. Even then, every community which is 5 meters below the Matrimandir Lake already would receive it by gravity. But anyway, when we pump it over the edge of the lake, then it will be at the highest point, and from there it will by gravity flow into the communities. But now you have an even higher pumpage. Let's say you know the Elephant Tower near Arati, where you have that huge barrel on top of the tower. So below that barrel on top, you have 7 times the storage underground. And all the water you pump from the underground up into the barrel, 15 meters high, and then from there you let it flow by gravity, and that gives the pressure for the communities. So I think our system, where you have to pump it 5 meters, is much more economic than what you have now.
Okay, still to be discussed. We have one more question on the technical thing, which is, you said in a small pond, the wind does not blow away the humidity, so that's why, the humidity gets blown away by a wind, and that's why the evaporation is higher. But then you said that doesn't happen on the lake. So now I would like to understand how the currents are formed if the wind has to form them, when the wind cannot even blow away the humidity on top of the lake. Thank you.
I didn't actually fully understand it, but it's very clear that a big surface evaporates per square meter much less water than a small surface. Because a small surface, the air practically always is dry air, which comes from the neighboring part. And the bigger the surface is, the more humid the air above the surface is, and the less moisture it can absorb. But what was your question there now exactly?
Yeah, the question was, if the wind on a lake blows away, is not able to blow away the humidity, which is on the surface of the water, how can the wind generate currents to mix the water within the lake?
Yeah, the good thing is that the wind always causes a wave movement. And the moment you have a wave movement, you have a steep flank, and then you have again a valley, and then again you have the slope. And when the wind blows onto the slope, it hits the water surface in a certain angle. And by that hitting, it pushes oxygen into the water. So if you have no wave movement, if you have an absolutely flat surface and the wind blows over it, much less oxygen gets into the water than if you have a wave movement through to the wind, and the waves are always perpendicular to the wind direction and receive the oxygen in a much better way. So it's always advantages to have, if you have a big surface, you have a formation of a wave movement, and that helps to get oxygen in. So the more wind you have, the more wave movement you have, the more oxygen you get into the water.
Yeah, that was not my question. My question, if the wind is not able to blow away humidity, how can it create waves? But doesn't matter. My 2 points. Who will be responsible for the operation and maintenance of this huge thing? That is not clear, and we would really like to have an answer. I just made a calculation from the number you said, 3 rupees per cubic meter per annum. That is the amount you said tonight for maintenance of 1 cubic meter per annum. It amounts to 40 lakhs. So who's going to pay for this money, and who is going to be responsible for the lake after Varuna is not there building it, but who will run it? And then I have the last question. Thank you.
I hope Varuna will be there, but I think to maintain the lake will be much, much cheaper than to maintain a garden area. We now have an irrigation in the Matrimandir gardens on an ordinary day of 200 cubic meter of water. And look how many workers we have in the Matrimandir gardens. I think, John, how many workers Matrimandir has now? 150? Something like that. So for the lake, we need maybe 2 or 3. And for the rest, we have 150. So I think if Varuna would not be there anymore, and the burden of maintaining the lake would fall on your shoulders, you would be happy to have the lake and not some garden area there.
Well, I would be happy if I have a say in it, but my last question is, what is the financial liability for Auroville for this project? Thank you very much.
The financial liability for Auroville is 0. Auroville is not giving anything to the construction of the lake till now. At least I'm not aware of it. So there is no financial liability for Auroville or for you.
Who is next, Rohan? Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Dabkamat. I have a question regarding risk management. Because this is a big project, you have a 70 crores, what you are saying on, and it will take 5 to 6 years' time. So risk management, that each part, what you are doing, environment, making hill, and all the parts. So how you are, what type of risk management do you have if something is not happening as you have planned, what you will do in that case?
The accounting of the lake project is done via the Matrimandir. The Matrimandir accounts, I think, are CAG audited. So I think it's impossible that there something would disappear. The foil and all the things which come from abroad anyway have to come by donation. So the foil we are purchasing in Germany, and it's donated from Germany here. It comes free of charge. The geofabric, the turbine, whatever Varuna Private Limited does also is free of charge. And the expenses at the site, let's say diesel for the lorries and excavators and all that, is accounted in the Matrimandir accounts, which are CAG audited. Does that answer your question?
Problem with the people who are living in the area, and they say, okay, we don't want to have it, and they are making protesting or something like that. What you will do in that case?
No, who would protest against what?
No, I mean, Fisher community or those who are living in at the coastal side, they may have objection.
Yeah, this is of course a good question. That's always The problem with the fishermen always is a real problem. Everybody has that. Even, for example, when this question happened with the turtles. We were in Viluparam, Rohan, myself, Shiva, and then this forest officer, where you saw the picture, she told us what problems she has with the villagers who are willingly coming and destroying the hedge farms. They usually take out the eggs from the turtles. If they know, okay, a turtle has come, put some eggs, then they take it out, bring it to a hedge farm, then they put it there in the ground. And then the villagers come and destroy because they have the totally wrong concept that the turtles eat the fish. Turtles are vegetarians, they eat only black sponge, but the villagers think they eat their fish. So they try to real ground below the East Coast Road up to Guna School. From there we did an open trench piping, but to cross the whole village area in such a way that none of the villagers even know where is the pipe, and it's 10 meters deep, so we are relatively safe, at least to bring the water up to Auroville. The plant itself will be on stilts in a container. In 2 containers we can have all the equipment for our 5,000 cubic meters. So we anyway plan to put it up in 3-4 meters height on container. We will have some personnel there, so I mean, you cannot make your equation without the local populations. The villagers are there and they are there. So if they create a problem, fine, you have a problem. We can't avoid it. But I think we will manage somehow. Slava Lavkamat still wants to say something.
One request, it will be quite good if we have an overall plan and see in picture how it will be when with the hills and the surrounding lakes, how it will look like. So at present, we have no idea. We know that it is 50 meters or what we are saying about hill, and what will be there, what will not be there. It will be much easier to understand it, what you have planned, and maybe more acceptable.
The hill is planned to have a height of 30 meters. That means more or less as high as Matrimandir. And it will be very nice to have a hill in Auroville where in the evening you can go up and watch the sunset and look very far. It's always an uplifting consciousness which results when you look from up down. It is in an area which is only 5 meters below the Matrimandir area. Matrimandir area is around 55, that's 5 meters below. We don't want to put out maps with the exact location of the hill because we still are in the process of purchasing land there and we don't want to the price for the land to shoot up too much. But the hill will be, you will like the hill once it's there, I'm sure, even if you don't see it before.
Good evening. My name is Ram Narayan. I don't have a question, but an appreciation. And thank you for being a receptive instrument for manifestation of this. And I think all of us are here for that same purpose, for manifestation of the dream. I have a small experience last summer, observation, which I said individually with some people. I was happy and they were happy. I would like to share it here. After the realization of the first test lake pond, what I have observed, you see, during the summer, the water was evaporating. It is depleting. Even the channel water was also depleting. And maybe it is the collaboration of Mother Nature, which during this period of summer, every week, only at night, heavy showers of rain, which was recharging the whole channel and that one. And that means the Mother Nature was happy because it promised to the mother in 1957, after 1.5 years of supramental descent upon earth, that mother had I have a conversation, I can read it to you, is that Mother Nature consented to collaborate. And at that time, Huta was there, mother went into trance, she was in the trance, so happy, and when she came out, she wrote immediately, and what she wrote, and that became the next year's New Year message, which came in November. Mother requested Huta not to disclose it, and she promised. And what she wrote, "O nature, material mother, thou hast said that thou wilt collaborate, and there is no limit to the splendor of this collaboration." Later, she says, this can be taken as one aspect of the collaboration between the spiritual power and material nature. Nature is always going on her own ways. Spiritual things are going on their own ways. Nature and spirituality do not go together. There is no collaboration so far between them, but always hostility towards each other. When the new year begins, there will be an endless collaboration between them. 1958 onwards, there was endless collaboration, what I could conceive. There will be plenitude, joy, glory, and magnificence. There will be the promise of the new world, of the supramental world, because Mother Nature, the material mother, has said that she would collaborate, so everyone should love her. And maybe she was waiting for the first part of the test lake was manifested, and she extended her collaboration, and through intelligence, whatever the exploration, energy, enthusiasm that is coming to your team, maybe it is gift. And all our questions and answers, with our all present knowledge, we are doing it. But what Mother has said, into the Satprem in the 70s, you are now here, but I am in already 2000. That means she was 30 years ahead. And whatever that she has said, it is always already manifested somewhere. And we are just instruments to manifest, give the concrete shape to this. And the another one, which I contemplate always, I think everybody would do that. The city will be built by what is invisible to you. The men who have to act as instrument, I would consider, without you having any status, as you said, not this, not this, not this, but to be a receptive instrument, one doesn't have to have any status. I consider you to be an instrument. Then men who have to act as instrument will do so despite themselves. They are only puppets in the hands of larger forces. Nothing depends on human beings. Neither the planning nor the execution. Nothing. That is why one can laugh. Let us all laugh. Thank you. Gratitude.
Yeah, I think in terms of collaboration, we still have to train a bit. But it's sometimes quite ridiculous, yeah. And we laugh also.
I have next Anu, Paulette, and then Julia wanted to come again. I see Philippe now. So if somebody else wanted to be on the list, raise your hands early, and Rohan will have to take the names.
Yeah. First of all, Michael, thank you very much for this work, and thank you for taking on the liability for Oroville. It's, we know how much has been contributed, how much has been taken over by all the delays, the rise of costs and everything. So you've assumed all that. So thank you on behalf of Oroville. I have two questions, not two questions, just curiosity ones, because I'm not an expert, I'm a layperson. One is that in the Galaxy plan, one sees the lake, and then you see the runoff of water, possibly, flood water from monsoons or something, which goes into the green corridors. Now, have you thought about that? Does that play a role in any way in part of your plan? This is one. The second one I'll ask you.
Of course, it would be very nice to have running water. Mother spoke about it quite often, even in the Oroville parks, even in the park around the lake, even in the Matrimandir gardens. She wanted running water, waterfalls. This is a typical element also of Japanese gardens. The mother lived in Japan for some time. And if we can realize that in our town planning, it would be fantastic. Roger also spoke about it. And we have to see how to realize that, of course, in some Western cities where water is not an issue, you have such rivulets, and it's always very nice. We can think of, if, let's say, we have a lot of runoff water which is harvested, and also desalinated water which is produced every day anew, and then we have a system where we purify it, and that means we add then the gray water. Let's say we produce every day 5,000 cubic meter of desalinated water. We bring it to Oroville. Then you take your shower, it goes in your sewage pipe, it goes to a plant where it's purified. Then after that, we cannot use it as drinking water, but it can be used again as gray water, can be going back to the lake, and then we could have a system where these 5,000 cubic meter plus what we harvest in rainwater harvesting, which should be much more, could maybe not flow only in pipes down to the communities, but in open water bodies. This would be very nice. This is again then an issue for town planning, not for us. But I think there are already quite some consideration in this direction that we would have open water rivulets flowing through the city. Let's see how we can realize that, but we would all be for it. Everybody, I think, in Oroville would be happy about that.
Thank you. So the second part is something which I was asked to ask you, is that when you say that the drinking water will be collected at the lower level and stored there, before it is circulated as drinking water to the city, does it go through any treatment? Or does it just go from the plastic bags to, how does that work?
If we speak of desalinated water, yeah?
Yeah,
or,
whatever
okay.
you are calling drinking water, that is stored.
Yeah, drinking water can come from two sources: groundwater, which is relatively pure, or desalinated water, and there's a big difference. Groundwater is drinking water, you just pump up and hopefully it's clean and it's being pumped to the communities. Now, desalinated water has, of course, a special feature. It doesn't contain minerals anymore. It's fully free from minerals. That's the reason why you can store it more or less indefinitely, because it is so hungry for minerals that any bacteria which would come inside would be dissolved because it attracts the minerals from the cells of the bacteria. So desalinated water has, in a way, a disinfective feature. So you can store desalinated water for a very long time without it getting contaminated. But then when you let it flow to the household, usually you let it flow over some chalk or marble or something so that it regains the minerals. This is not necessary. Actually, we usually have too many minerals, at least in Europe. You have you need about 2.5 grams of salt per person usually. With 100 grams of bread, which has a salt content of 2.5%, you have already your daily salt. So we all take much too much salt in the West. And if you have now water which is totally free of minerals, it's rather positive for the body, not negative. When people say that desalinated water is poisonous, this is all a nonsense. The owner of MFT Köln, the plant in Germany which manufactures desalination plants, which has manufactured most of the desalination plants on the Indian warships, and from where we intend to get also our desalination plant. When I met him last time, he told me he has lived now 5 years from desalinated water without minerals, and he is fully healthy. But usually to allow the desalinated water to regain the minerals, you let it flow via some chalk or marble or some stone where you allow the desalinated water to replenish its natural poise of minerals.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't raise question the first time because the situation is already difficult. I didn't want to make it worse. But I may be sentimental, but for me the lake has always been associated to Roger and Harald Kraft. So I was feeling strange not listening his name. Now I'm happy that you mentioned. But just before coming, I discovered a video. It was in March 22, a video of the Auroville Foundation with the secretary, with you, with Anupama, with Toby, and with Harald, where they were asking questions to Harald. I had not the time because I had to rush here, but at least I listened to Harald. And one thing is just what Anu has been asking now concerning the desalinated water. Harald said that it's not that it's poisonous, but it lacks the nutrients. And so these things have to be added, and then of course it will add to the cost. And I don't know, because the video is 1.5 years old, I don't know whether things have changed now, but this is what he said. And then, as yourself said, he pays the major attention to using the water through the buildings. And this to me is something not only obvious, but in fact is quite outrageous that is not happening in Auroville. So of course this is not your business, it should be the business of the ATDC and of the architects. But it's highly time that finally we start harvesting water that way. And then another discrepancy with what you're presenting now is that he builds his lakes with clay. And I remember having seen the slides of his presentation. I always like to see that at the edge it was greenery. So now it's very difficult for me to visit again the Matrimandir Gardens and seeing just this pebble. I'm happy to know that it's granites, at least it's better, but anyhow it's quite different than what I was seeing with Harald's presentation. And as himself said that in case of this polyethylene, if there is a breakage, it's difficult to find and costly, difficult to repair and so on. of course, he's 1.5 years old, probably things has progressed. But anyhow, he suggests to have anyhow a double insulation. And in this case, he himself used clay because he says that in the case of clay, if there is a breaking, it's much easier to repair. And on top, the way it's sealed, it starts sealing all around, so that it's much safer. So my question would be, I don't know anything, maybe I'm saying stupidity, but it would be possible to put on top of the polyethylene clay to have beautiful lakes like Harald is doing?
First of all, Harald, of course, is very much part of our team. And we had made some 5 years ago 4 test ponds in the Matrimandir area, 10 by 10 meters. And one of the test ponds, we used this clay, this vacuum compacted clay, which Harald usually uses for his lakes. And you're right, this, if a small hole appears and you have a clay liner, then this is usually self-healing. So the clay gets sucked into the hole and clogs the hole. So very small holes can be close themselves with the clay. But we had tested the vacuum compacted clay, which was performing actually very well. We had tested the HDPE foil. We have tested natural clay from the area. And we had tested bentonite mats. Bentonite is a mineral which swells with water. And if you do it in a proper way, it can also give a good sealant. Now, the result of it, of these 4 tests of the sealant, was that the bentonite mat was an absolute catastrophe. The natural clay was a semi-catastrophe. The vacuum compacted clay, which Harald uses, was actually quite good. But the best was the HDPE foil, which has absolutely zero leakage. Now, if you do it with vacuum compacted clay, you have the problem that you always have root intrusion. The roots of the trees are attracted by the moisture and grow towards the lake and grow through that clay inside the lake and suck out water. And so vacuum compacted clay as sealant tends to get defective after some time and has a lot of problems. It's maybe nice in Germany, but here we decided for HDPE foil, and Harald also said we should try out, and if it works, then he's all for it, and he is very much part of the whole thing, and very present also at that time when we did the for mini test ponds. He came together with the LGA specialists, and we all were here in Oroville and did the experiment and evaluated it, and he is part of the team. Does that answer your question somehow? No, I don't think it makes much sense, because the vacuum compacted clay, first of all, it is about 10 times the price of HDPE foil, and then it has no function if it is on top of the HDPE foil. It is a sealant, and if you have the HDPE foil as a sealant, why would you put another sealant on top of it? It makes no sense. And then also, of course, that clay diffuses into the water, so it gives a nutrition for the water, so your algae growth in a clay-led pond is definitely much more than in an HDPE sealed pond. Everybody, of course, has his technology which he uses and which he likes. And Harald is in love with vacuum compacted clay. We know that. And if he finds companies which pay for that and he makes a lake with that, very well. And it's nice also in Germany, it's his style. But for us, we had all the sealants tested, and he also agreed that, okay, let's take HDPE foil. But see, the granite chips which you see now, they won't be there anymore afterwards. Once the lake is full, you don't see these gray granite chips. Then the water comes till the top. So your concerns now, optical, that won't be there anymore after 2 monsoons, hopefully.
So we have 7 more names. So and then Julia also wanted to come again.
Jan
I suggest you do it in the end.
I think.
So yes, Jan is next. I just have a small request to be a little more concise so that everyone has a chance to speak.
Hello. We're about 100 people earlier, some left already. I don't want the people go home flabbergasted with a statement. Earlier on, Giulio and Michael were talking about that it needs more pumping power to pump from 5 meter deep under an open water body. That is not so. Whether you pump from the top of the open water body or from below, it is exactly the same pumping power. You both should know that. The second...
Yes, that's correct, because the water pressure in the water is always the same, whether it's 5 meter down or on top, it makes no difference.
The second point pertains to the aspect of that the test lake has been tested. Michael, you know I totally disagree with that.
We all know that. There we have a very lively discussion always on whether the lake construction should be continued or not. Now I have a question, not that I'm in favor of democracy or voting or something, but just for interest. Now after you have heard that, who of you is in favor that we continue? Should raise the arm, and afterwards, who is in favor that we stop now for 3 months?
Can we do that after I spoke, and then we are fair? You spoke for 1.5 hours. I can speak for 2 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the picture we saw, second picture or something, third picture, probably a German lake, very beautifully clear, and then you have this kind of murky suspense at the bottom, and one can think that if there is a major leak, you would see kind of a change in this murkiness. Our lake at the bottom looks completely different. There is no clear view, not even for 50 centimeter. It's completely murky everywhere. Now we are looking at 1 hectare. Imagine you're looking at 16 hectare of lake where you have to send hordes of divers down and try to detect a leak. So detecting the leak will be very difficult. Regarding the foil, I have no doubt. It is excellent material. Regarding Said's work, also, I don't have any doubt. He is an excellent worker, very conscientious. Every seam is being tested. It's really proper. Where I have doubts is actually about my own work. If you look at the other picture we had, that was last year when Said came, we were not ready for him. He started foiling, and I had to move and prepare the next section of the test lake in the same day, because he would come in the night and foil it. So compression, preparation of the underground was done in a very quick way. So my doubt is on my own work. The geotextile, it can expand up to 300%. But if you would have a hole the size of a fist below the geotextile, and now the water level is only 5 meters. Now it has been lowered to 4 meters. So the pressure is only 4 tons per square meter. But if you increase the pressure to 10 meters, it will become 10 tons per square meter. So any common sense would dictate that if you do something to be 100% sure, you don't test it at half the pressure. Ideally, you would test it at double the pressure. We can't do that. But the minimum is you test it at the pressure that it is designed to last. And I strongly recommend that with every section of the lake, that should be done because it's so difficult to repair later on. The second point where I think we have not done any testing at all is on the water quality of the current lake. You say it will take 3 years. I say no. In the current monsoon, that is just about pending, I'm sure we can raise the water level to 8 meters. And in the next monsoon, in 1 year time, it will be full. But we have a big problem with the water quality. Just 4 days ago, there was a bucket of dead fish in the test lake. I went swimming in the lake. The top 20, 30 centimeters of water is 40 degrees hot. There's no fish, there's no plant life. When you dive there, it looks very unhealthy. So we cannot duplicate this kind of lake until we come to a solution to this. There has to be some kind of a shading. People who were designing the Matrimandir Lakes with the little lotus ponds, they know that you need to provide shading on open water bodies. Because here, unlike in Germany, the climate is so intense that the water heats up and it becomes healthy for aquatic life. So my point is, Michael, you have created something really fantastic. From an engineering point, you have my full support. But now, after we have done the test lake, we have to make that thing beautiful and something that becomes forms in a biotope, that it doesn't become a maintenance nightmare where we need to have artificial oxygenation. I think we can really, with a short stop in the work, 1 year, I promise you, we can make modifications to this project to really make it worthwhile of Matrimandir and of Oroville.
Okay, now, one second. Now, I don't see how, by stopping the construction, you can solve this question of, for example, the 40 centimeter hot water layer on top. If we continue the work at the same time, we can try to find solutions for that. We don't have to stop the work to find a solution or research in this point. It's not required that we stop the work now to find a solution for that. We can continue the work and find a solution. And stopping the work means just a huge waste in this. And anyway, as you say now, most probably in 1 month or 6 weeks, we have already 8 meter height of water level, and whether we have 8 or 10 meter doesn't make such a big difference. And HDPE foil has been tested thousands of times in so many water bodies, even much deeper than 10 meters. So I don't think that it makes much sense to stop the work. So, but now let's just, okay, you have your opinion, I respect it. We have our opinion. I would be interested to see what, who thinks we should continue the work, who thinks we should stop it. Let's start with who would think that we should continue the work. And who thinks we should stop the work? Okay, it's, I think, slightly more who say we should continue, but more or less equal, 50-50. Okay, that was just for... Huh? Can you, 1 second, Slava, can you just give him the mic?
Wait.
No, I just want to respect the queue. I don't want to hold the mic before the other people. But my point is the third option. I really want the work to continue, but probably differently. This can be a third option that I want to propose.
But then what would be the difference you are proposing?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I speak a little slowly. That, the third option I propose is I really want this project to continue, but probably little differently. Yeah.
No, but you're making it very interesting.
Yeah.
By stopping, we would like to. And
No, I don't think we stop. Yeah, because this is kind of very polarizing question. Because there's a nuance in it. Because people have different concerns, and people are here to express. So I think what is important is integration of different opinions, and definitely you have point that you prove that what is important for continuing the work. So I think we need to be able to address this subtlety in community voice instead of putting it yes and no. So this will help a lot in the community process. Because at the end, what we need in the community process is this harmony. Harmony is not one way. So I think integration brings actually harmony. So for the lake project, I feel it should continue. Or maybe.
Do we have a spare mic? Seems to be working.
Okay, I can meanwhile say something to it. What, I can? It's okay. Okay, I'll take your advice and drink some water. I think it's ordinary groundwater. Okay. Of course, it would be nice if we could collaborate. The problem in a collaboration is if it's not really focusing on the actual subject, but if people try to just bring in some elements in order to feel that, okay, they have also participated and contributed, and then the whole thing becomes a bit problematic. Maybe you know that Russian joke, what is a camel? A camel is a horse designed by a committee. So, so if you have a committee and everybody wants to put his chutney to the dish, then after some time you have more chutney than dish, and then it becomes a bit weird. So if it is focused on the subject, we are very happy. If we have any participation, we are always open for discussions, absolutely no problem. But then at the end, one has to be able to act and do the thing which is best for the cause, and not just to try to integrate everybody and, okay, this one we do this for his sake and this one we do for that. That's a little bit my problem. It was very much when we built the Matrimandir, was very clear Roger had the authority, and there were so many proposals for this and that, and was very good that in the end then somebody was there who said, okay, it's been done like that, and now it has come out very nice. If we would have incorporated all the proposals of everybody, it would have been a total sausage salad.
Next I have Jasmine and then Gajendran. Can we move to this? Yeah?
Thank you, Michael. I would like to start by what you just said about the committee that basically saying that too many cooks spoil the broth, right? I would like to oppose this with an experience and faith that is very deep for me. And especially living in Oroville has deepened it so much more. And that is that as long as we look for solutions and we all have partial answers to a question, it tends to look chaotic and it can take very long to come to anything that looks satisfactory. But when we hit the right thing through collaboration, there is a moment when suddenly everybody is happy and we know Mother's will is felt. I've had this experience over and over, and I believe I'm not the only one. I speak here as one of just a normal member of Oroville society, not specialist in lake matters at all. But there are many of us who are deeply, deeply interested in seeing the lake manifested, deeply care, and that's why we came here, and that's why we gathered a few days ago at the Kalabhumi. That's why also many of us, almost 300 I believe, bothered to sit and fill and provide feedback on the Matrimandir Lake. And I hope you've had a chance to look at it, because many questions have been raised there that I did not find at all answered here. The questions here were of technical nature. And I think we all really appreciate the work, the incredibly painstaking work that has been undertaken by you and your team over so many years. It's been a lot of patience, and technology certainly has its place. In fact, it's very impressive, and it's quite easy also to get mesmerized by technology, almost like by its brilliant glittering cage. I would like to remind that we hear, all of us, because Oroville was inspired by something from the highest source. And that technology is meant to be at the service of something higher, of spirit, of which Mother has given us some fundamental principles. One of them is beauty. And the feedback that came from Orovillians, I think 50, 100 or more times, is please introduce beauty into the lake. We are missing beauty. Many expressed how they feel almost frightened. And it is really not an uplifting experience right now to go and see what is happening. And when we see the excavation, one of the first questions that arises, of course, is how long will it take for even Lake 2 to fill up? I'll be very happy and happy to also remind you of the questions. I'd like to bring in a few other points, because afterwards I don't want to speak.
If you allow us to go full swing, it will go fast. But if we discuss every point, it will take another 50 years. I mean, we have discussed it now 20 years or 25 years, and there has to come a point when then you have to do it. After 25 years, the first people with whom we discussed may not be there, new people are there, and they say, yeah, but I have not been consulted, I have not been informed. This you can go on endlessly. We had the same discussion with the Matrimandir for the discs or not, and then there was a meeting, and then Piero and Paolo and some people said, yeah, it would be so nice and so simple if it is just pure concrete and no discs and no gold and megalomanie and blah, blah, blah. And then after some time, we just pushed through and did it. And afterwards, Paolo came to me when it was finished and said he's so happy that we won the game and not he, because now it's so beautiful. So I think at some point of time, you just have to do it.
Can I continue? I believe that I've already spoken about in favor of collaboration, not collaboration of egos, because that won't be possible, but I'm convinced that I experience people, so many people who really want, not from an ego perspective, but who really want to see this lake happening in the best possible and most sustainable possible way, that it is also satisfactory and acceptable to our bioregion, that as indigenous cultures say, you plan for 7 generations after you, not only for the next one, or for when we pull out, or for 100 years maximum. I believe it's really important, and it is possible, and collaboration being such a key point. When they say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So I've heard many technicians, technological people, who have serious questions. And I would like to see that we can widen the panel a little bit, that we can bring in experts also from our Indian perspective, from other sides, to answer all the aspects that play in. For instance, water quality. Dead water. We all probably are familiar with the research of Masaru Emoto. If we want to be in a spiritual city, we need to have water that can receive the spiritual force. We cannot have dead water. We have to find solutions to the beauty and the living quality of water. There are many such questions that need to be answered. So my query is really, okay.
May I answer just one question of yours which you brought up about beauty? I think the point is well taken. It has come from many sides, and it's important to remember that it's not complete as yet. And that part hasn't really been worked on. And I absolutely feel that from at least where I stand and where we all stand, I think it's a point well made and it's a point well taken. But let us go on further.
I hope that by going on and while continuing whatever work may be possible to continue, please take this aspect seriously right now, because beauty has been violated. The sense of respect for life has been violated by the killing of hundreds of trees already. There is a big concern and it cannot be swept from the table. Please show that respect to the community. Let's find solutions together. Let's find solutions that are respectful of life, of Mother Nature. We have heard a beautiful quote by Mother, how Mother Nature collaborates. So let's put that in action. Let's show respect also to the people from the bioregion by informing them and taking them on board in the planning. Let's also show respect to the law of the lands, that when there is a court order that prohibits felling of trees, the answer is big in the room. How is it possible that hundreds of trees have been felled while that judgment is active and valid? So there are many questions that are really very urgent for us. And we are not wanting to stop the work for the sake of stopping, and nobody wants to delay just because we don't want to see Oroville bloom. We all want it, and we all know the earth is in crisis, Oroville is in crisis. Let's get together. Let's sit around the table. Let's call experts from all sides so that we can find a synthetic solution that Mother wants from us. Thank you.
Next is Gajendran and then Selvaraj.
Vanakkam, Michael. I have a lot of my brain running very fast. How can I explain this place? The right time I fail, right time I'm talking my bottom of my heart, actually. I no plan anything in my brain. First I will tell you, first I want to say to you, I'm already working many with Piero, Roger, Paulo, now you are there. I'm so great, thanks to Mother, for participation. I'm coming for participation. I'm not coming for order and rule and my own things to implement here. Already it is there, Mother view. So what I felt whenever I see you, I tell you, first time I tell in front of you, I'm not actually selfish. I never think any benefit to anybody else. So Mother gave me the opportunity in Auroville here. Until today, what I can, even tiny things I do. I'm doing every day. Whenever I see you, what I pray to Mother, this is, actually I don't want to say that, but I'm saying that. When I see you, I pray to Mother, I'm nothing here, doing here. You are doing so great things here. Please, Mother, you give me my life. I don't know how many years my life. Part of my life, give to Michael Bonte.
Yeah, but I think...
You know, I tell you, I'm telling, because why? Such a great things happening here. Your need here for Mother work, Mother dream. I'm really, I pray to Mother always. We don't know that. Only we are you and me, only wishing on the way. That's all. You're not much close. You're not talking each very close. But only I see you. This is my prayer always to Mother.
But I think there you're making a mistake.
No,
that maybe I'm like the tip of the iceberg, but below that there is 10 times some other people.
Yeah.
And okay, the credit goes to me, but actually it's Said and Arjun and Shiva and whoever.
Exactly.
So it's the whole team which is working, and there's nothing that, okay, one of the team players is more than the rest.
Actually, this questioning to be very easy. Anybody can make question easy. All the questions, easy. But what I felt, the question people, they are really intelligent people also. I didn't say any participation, I didn't say anything there, here. I don't like that. They have a question, whatever you come to the site, you question anybody else, the people are there, question them, and do it. Questioning is, I don't feel to write things here. Participation, help, collaboration, together, finish Mother dream. This is only I want here. I like your, what you're doing, your work will be finished. For future people, for future. There's so many people, after 50,000 people coming here, we are doing only foundation now here. That is, I'm separate, I'm support, I'm very happy. Please continue. There's 1 minute, very valuable, our life. 1 minute. Don't waste your time. All other Aurovilles also. Thank you.
But I think it's time also to maybe look a bit at the Matrimandir workers. Huh? We have so many workers who are there full-heartedly putting in all their effort, a lot, and they are really dedicated and working hard. Without the Matrimandir workers, we couldn't do anything. Huh? This is really, they are very nice people there in the team.
Selvaraj, next Philip.
Yeah. First, I would like to thank Michael and the team for taking this forward. For me, this lake has been a big question all along. But now, seeing this picture there, I feel it's coming, going forward. I'm really happy about this because things are moving. That the next bit you're doing, it's not you're going to complete the lake. It's another bit. And I think, please, don't stop. Somehow, I feel there's a big force who are trying to stop things, and run through a community process. Obviously, for me, I feel very strongly this community process at the moment, it is basically trying to go towards stopping things. Please, I'm really happy about this. Go ahead. And another thing what I wanted to say is that
I mean, there is a lot of questions. A tree stuck here and we feel energetically with a tree, this, that. There are many things. But we can't be listening to all the bits here and there. But the other thing what I'm to say, I really feel grateful to the Indian government. At least at this moment, they have finally stepped in and said they're willing to help the master plan, the Auroville city, to come forward. If you wait more, you know, already 2/3 of the green belt is gone. It's not going to come. It won't come. It is high time we really focus and take things forward. Instead of trying to build a story, community process, where we keep trying to stop things. I pray and thank you all who are leading this. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. You get 100 points out of 100 for you. Now for the collaboration, I want to say something. We should maybe collaborate also in looking at the process and how can we abolish the process by collaborating, because the process, this religion of the process is really something which is a big hindrance, I feel. So if we speak of collaboration, let's look at all the aspects. Huh? There are quite some aspects which are not really very nice here.
Okay, Philippe, next, Sauro.
Hi, I am Philippe.
Can you take the mic, Peter?
No, I'm just very spontaneous. I didn't want to say anything because I'm very interested what you have to say, and I find it impressive. But when you talk about process and pointing at the so-called, how do you say, destructive process, it is not correct. Everything is process, and it's the wrong word for that. Just be more precise, or let's be more precise in that, because there's a crux here in the community between, what to say, we know everything, or we are seekers on the way. And these are different camps even here, I feel. And we have to come to some more clarity on that and not pointing fingers at each other, because we all have this other thing in us. That's what I want to say. It's a bit not so very clear and maybe not out of stay, but this process, I find you, Michael, because I really appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah. Hi, I am Philip. I'm an engineer, by the way. Thank you very much for your presentation, your effort, your everything, and your clarification. The clarification you gave about the vision, your vision of the Matrimandir, that you're pushing very hard. Thank you also for introducing us to the technical scientific team in Germany, making the concept decisions for the Matrimandir Lake. I'm a bit puzzled there. Those are nice, very smart gentlemen, probably. Experts in their domain. I work with experts in my domain. I'm somehow an expert in my domain. I don't think anyone can claim that they are absolute authorities in their domain and that they never make mistakes, right? That's a basic of science. You mentioned very often, those are scientific facts that you know, and there's no need for you to present to us, because you know and you have your experts. There's something wrong here. Jasmine pointed a very important thing about beauty. Many people do not see any beauty in the design that you're proposing. So it has to be thought of. Like, it's Matrimandir, it's not... Like, if you want to do a test lake and all, you can find other places to make those tests. I think there's a misunderstanding, deep misunderstanding or a difference of understanding with the very project of Auroville here. Auroville is, as I understand, maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I understand it, and I think many people do like me, understand Auroville as a collective experiment. So when you explain to us that you come here, you're no one here, right? It means that you don't take any responsibility, actually, when you say that you're no one. And anyway, you do what you want. That's what you told us. You just do what you want, right? You do what you want in Auroville? About water management, I have also deep concerns about your project. Let's say my grandmother used to say, don't put all your eggs in the same basket. As a computer engineer, I think decentralize. What you're proposing is exactly the opposite. Everything is centralized. Anything that goes wrong will have deep repercussions everywhere. That's just the principle of centralized things. This is a huge mistake. And you're not going to be affected by those mistakes because you don't live here. And maybe it will happen in 50 years, in 100 years, if this project is realized like that. I mean, there are too many things here. I really ask that it doesn't need, like we're talking about long term, and now you're just, yeah, last point. You agreed 3 years ago to a test pond, right? And now you're saying that this is nonsense. We have to go on and complete the whole thing so that you can do your tests. But then you are asking us to believe you, to trust you fully with that, and whereas 3 years ago you agreed to something and now you said this is nonsense. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, I have never agreed to just make a test pond and not the lake. Huh? Somebody else may have agreed, I not. But to come to your thing of the more scientists looking at it, there was a 20-year-long process, endless meetings, and quite a number of other scientists we had taken at that time. Sauro will remember some from the Anna University, from the IIT, some water specialists, Indian water specialists, and they proposed, every scientist proposed something else. Huh? You have 5 scientists, you have 5 concepts. And then we tried it out. We made some 4 test ponds. By the way, we never got the permission from Town Development Council. I went twice to Ahmedabad, to Doshi, who was at that time the official head of the Town Development Council, and he was enchanted by our concept and told, yes, I will tell Sauro and Suhasini to support you and all that, give you the permission. We never got the permission. Then finally we just did it. And first of all, how can it be that in Auroville you are not even allowed to dig 4 holes and test 4 sealants? Imagine that in a city of progress. And Town Development Council was just always blocking it. But then we tested it, and the proposal of the main Indian scientist was to use natural clay. But the performance of this natural clay in comparison to our HDPE foil was a disaster. So after testing the proposal, we came to the conclusion that HDPE foil is the best thing. And we have spent a lot of time, a lot of effort on this thing and have taken our conclusion. And it's not that we didn't want Indian scientists to participate.
I was not referring to the HDPE foil. I'm not competent commenting anything on that. I'm commenting basically on the 80-meter wide or 130-meter wide circle, as you said, like without shadow, completely uniform and completely devoid of any beauty. That's what I'm talking about.
But the lake also has a beauty. I always don't understand how people can think that a lake is not beautiful. All the important city, if you see cities which are at a lake, like Geneva, Zurich, Zug, a lake adds so much to a city. And now you may think that this is big in comparison to 3,500 people. Maybe it is big. Let there be 50,000 people, and I can guarantee you, if Oroville becomes a success, it will not stay with 50,000 people. Everybody will want to come here, and soon Oroville will have 200,000 or 300,000 or more. And the lake, in perspective to the full Oroville population, will look so small.
I think
So-
nobody. Sorry. Nobody here, I believe, question the fact that there should be a lake around the Matrimandir Gardens. We all agree to that, I believe. The problem is which one? How do we do it? Like the parallel with the Crown Road is quite obvious, right? And back to that collective. That's a collective project, Oroville. It's not the Far West. It's
But
not
we
like
had
someone like is a cowboy and say like, oh, I come and I do what I want.
For 20 years we have discussed the lake, and we had a 20-year-long process. Now, how long should that process go? Another 40 years? No, the Matrimandir executives 5 years ago took the decision to start the lake.
Okay, next is Sauro and then Jyoti.
Well, first, Michael, I have an invitation because it was not why I want to talk. I asked the mic. But it is the second time in a meeting that you talk about me, you take me out of history and talk about as the person that has been blocking, etc. Please stop doing that. When I was in TDC, I raised questions to you about financial and technical viability of the project. You said that you didn't want to answer those questions immediately yet. That's how it went. So that is for the past. I mean, please stop doing this and dragging me out every time unnecessarily into the history. Then I have some question. Why I asked for the mic. I have 3 questions. Maybe I can do one by one so you can answer. The first question is relating to the depth of the lake. We know that Roger has not given any depth of the lake. We are not here challenging the parameter of Roger. But my one impression that one received from your presentation is that in order to achieve a parameter of 10 meters, which has not been given by the mother, has not been given by Roger, we are going to create a very complex centralized system, complex from a technological and non-financial point of view, that will be, at some point, sooner or later, has to be managed by the community. You may say Varuna take care or not taking care, but at some point it's something that has to serve Oroville. And by taking this solution, because we are fixed on the 10-meter depth of the lake, we are going to invent and creating solution for water distribution like the bubble that were presented at the last meeting, and many people are raised concern, which I have myself in a place like Oroville, which has to supposed to give a certain level of consciousness, even in the food and the quality of water we eat. How can we supply that water which has been stored in plastic, where the entire world is going to move away from storage water in plastic as far as possible? So my question at this point is the following. I mean, first, can you review this concept of the bubble, because it's really one source of concern. But the second point is, as far as I remember, there was a study of Kostra, tell me if I'm wrong, the name of the, let's say 4 meters for the lake. Then Harald Graaf proposed 10 meters because there was a need to recharge the aquifer. Now there is no more need to...
Can we maybe have one question
No, this question, no.
Because now you're already at question number 5.
No, I'm question number 1. Don't need to I just make a statement. I'm on question number 1. Now we have need. We say the aircraft came and make a proposal of 10 meters because we need to recharge the aquifer. Now the concept of recharging the aquifer, you say it has been abandoned. But we stick to the parameter of 10 meters, where yourself has raised out in your presentation, and we create artificial solution in order to achieve the parameter. So my question is, if I understand correctly, and I've not misunderstood you during your presentation, it's still an open question whether it is good or not for the water quality to have, and the oxygenation to have 4, 5 meters or 10. If this question is still open, why then you go ahead with excavating a lake of 10 meters? And if you feel that you got all the answer now from the test as it has been made until now, then please put all the cards on the table of the various experts you had and come to some conclusion. It has to be 5, it has to be 10, it has to be 10 because we have to satisfy a certain situation, or it can be 5. Otherwise, what might happen, you just make one more section and then you discover that
Can I answer the question? Because
Yes,
you're going in circles.
No, I was just at the end. I'm not going to. And be patient with me, because I'm patient with you and with everyone. I don't know why you've taken the matter so personally with me. I can't invite you to stop.
Okay. So the question of the depth of 10 meters is very simply answered. If you have 5 meter or 10 meter, the 5 meter deep lake will have half of the water storage, but the same cost. That means from 50 rupees per cubic meter, you come to 100 rupees per cubic meter stored water. And then it becomes not feasible at all. It was the main subject of the Matrimandir Lake to demonstrate that with an open water body of a depth of 10 meters, you can reach a feasibility of water harvesting. If you make the lake only 3 meters, then you come to 200 rupees per cubic meter stored water. It's just not feasible anymore. We wanted to demonstrate the absolute optimum of water storage, what is the cheapest and the most feasible, and there it has to be 10 meters from the point of view of the economics. Otherwise, you can just forget it. The village will not be able to afford double the price for a thing. Secondly, even for the water quality, as Jan said, on top you have a layer of 40 degrees hot water. Now, the less the depth, the hotter the water gets. The deeper it is, the better the water quality. Go to Jinji, where you have these huge deep lakes, 50 meter deep, and they have a fantastic water quality. So if you have a shallow lake, you have a hot water, you have much more algae growth. There are arguments for this or for that, but the main purpose for the Matrimandir Lake research was to see, is water harvesting feasible? And there, the water storage is the key part, and that had to be feasible. And for that, it's not feasible with 5 meters, but it's feasible with 10 meters. And we want to demonstrate that we have a technology where you can have it 10 meter and you reach that price ratio. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, partly answered that you say it is a financial decision. It does not answer the question of the quality of the water, but that was not the question I make. And just said, so that means your idea is to go ahead with 10 meter again for the next section.
We want to.
You are not going to review these, even if the technicians say that the quality of water is better to have 4 meters.
No, we want to have the maximum of water storage for Oroville, for the Oroville water system, and so we want to have it 10 meter deep on the width, of course. If we would make it less wide, we could maybe then make it more deep to have the same water storage facility. but I think a 10-meter depth is possible and is the most economic. And from the point of view of water quality, there are different opinions. Harald Kraft thinks that 10 meter is much better than 5 meter. Other scientists says, no, you should have it so shallow that even on the bottom, water plants can grow. There are different opinions, but I think 10 meter is our choice.
Second question, is related to the electricity nexus. Is a purely question, because a few years ago when we discussed, I understood that these projects was for giving a backup for 1 hour of electricity for a city of 50,000 inhabitants. So I don't know if you have updated data, if the figure is correct, and if the figure is correct, is that worthwhile to put all this system? Because we are impacting the way we decide about our energy distribution, not only our water distribution.
Yeah, actually, this uphill power storage is something which we had proposed even in earlier meetings 5 years ago. Tuan has come all the way to my place in Germany, to Deggendorf, where we inspected 3 or 4 of these uphill power stations. We had done all the calculations, the mathematics. Now, with this new feature of the underwater cushion, we have even much more possibilities than before. And there are, in the internet, you can find these calculators where you can just calculate yourself how many cubic meters of water, what height difference, and you get the result of how much energy you can store. So with 1 meter water level variation of the Matrimandir Lake and with a lower storage at seawater level, we get 17,500 kilowatt hours of storage, which then we have to see how we work out our electricity system in Orwell. That's secondary. Then we have to see how much solar can we install, how much wind energy we use. This we have to see then. But it's not related to the lake. We will try to get the maximum out of the hydropower storage, that for sure.
Third question, and regarding the desalination plan. Because there are concerns about the timing, because on one thing I agree with you. If you want to do this system, you cannot wait 2028 to have in place. You need to have in place before, and that is, I don't know how much is realistic to have in place before. But my question is, the desalination plant has certain cost in terms of management, and you say that your role as Varuna is a service provider. So once you have supplied to the client, Matrimandir or Aurville, that is, so who will manage the desalination plant after it is completed and start the distribution system? And who is covering the cost of the maintenance and management? Because it will be a substantial amount in any case, even if you do your own electricity, you generate solar power plant, etc., but still there is some situation involved.
Who will manage it? The person who will manage it, we don't know. It has to be
I'm asking
person.
Varuna or Auroville.
Varuna Private Limited will manage it. Same way as Varuna Private Limited is managing the windmills, and it's not concerning Auroville. Varuna Private Limited is paying the maintenance fees. For example, every windmill every year costs us 10 lakh of maintenance fees, which Varuna Private Limited is paying, and we are giving the electricity free of charge to Auroville. So we are planning also to convert water to a moneyless commodity in Auroville, and it will be Varuna Private Limited, as far as I see now, which will manage the thing.
So you commit to the covering of the financial, the operational cost of the desalination plant for Varuna. I understood correctly?
As far as I see, we don't want to put the cost of the operation on the community. We will try to have our own windmills. The cost is basically the electricity, nothing else. A little bit of maintenance for the machinery. One calculates around 3% of the cost of the machinery for annual maintenance of the machinery, and the rest is the electricity. the seawater is free of charge. And okay, you need an engineer, but I know desalination plants, for example, in California, the Monterey Bay desalination plant, a plant of approximately the same size of ours, that engineer was managing it with his mobile phone from home. So he saw that if there's a problem, and then he programs on his phone and he manages the whole thing. So the process continues, and there's not so much of managing a desalination plant if it's well designed.
Jyoti, then Srimoy.
Thank you, Michael. So I have many points, but my main concern today is something very personal and very dear to my heart. That is about beauty in the project. Beauty, people can say it can be subjective, but beauty can be collective as well, that we can share, we can admire beauty together. And beauty is not only physical beauty. Beauty can be our attitude, and also beauty can be our commitment in the process. And eventually it will be beautiful, that beautiful attitude and beautiful process leads beautiful result. So for me, right now, the beauty in Matrimandir Lake project is not wholesome. It's not yet integral. And I appreciate this commitment in engineer perfection. I don't know how to say it. It's technical perfection, let's say. At the same time, we can see different categories in beauty. So I want to emphasize it is probably a lack of collaboration, and attitude is making slightly this unbalanced process leading into this project right now. And I appreciate you when Anu was questioning about her concern. You mentioned about Japanese beauty. And I am here in Oroville last 18 years, and I still cherish the beauty of Japan every time I go back. Though I couldn't really go back to Japan last time, like Corona and so on, but I was there like last few months ago. So the way how people take care of nature, you read a lot about Mother, how she spoke about beauty of nature and in Japan and the attitude of people. So when having this as a background, and particularly my family is really dedicated to beauty in Kyoto, and I'm soaked into this atmosphere even I was born. And many people come from European fashion maison and all these artists from all over the world. They come to our place, and we work for government, and we work for imperial families. And having this background, the way how it is manifesting right now it's really questionable. That beauty requires a lot of patience, manifestation. And beauty requires a lot of understanding, not only about our own inner understanding about beauty, but we always have a chance to enlarge the limit of beauty by working together. So right now, I also personally work a lot with different artists, architects, different people. And it is always actually fun to work together. People always bring some limitation. It may be frustrating, but at the end, these are really the stepping stone to some beauty which I actually didn't know. So having this background, I think we can really do a lot in Matrimandir because it's enormous what we already achieved for Matrimandir. Though I came in 2005, it was almost a time of completion. But I could feel the beauty of Matrimandir, that people are working together. Sometimes I was part of it. I visited Shanta, I visited the marble workshop. People are working together. Today, we don't have that atmosphere. I think everybody can agree with this. We don't have that. But we didn't lose it. We just not committed to it. So I think now it's time for open the door to collaboration for the lake, because lake concerns everybody. It's not actually about Orobilians. It's actually for villagers, that mother said, the first Orobilians, and merge into this background, and then we can actually work together in a larger circle. So, but today, my guideline is beauty. Beauty that is harmony, what mother says. So if we can bring greater beauty, greater harmony, I think we can overcome a lot of problems we have in all of it right now. So I think I can contribute a lot. And I know many people can contribute for this. And yeah, so I think what's making this process not possible is partly existing structure. And you may not like the process. I know it makes you very upsetting. I understand because I read your application from Matrimandir from 2008. It has a lot of process, and I liked it actually reading going through. And again, you have to go through this site permission, site application in 2018. It's frustrating. It's frustrating, I can understand. But when we have some obstacles, maybe later, yeah. So I really want to request, excuse me, it may be frustrating.
Okay, can I say something?
I think, Michael, I think I'm not telling you something wrong right now.
Yeah, the question of beauty, as Arjun said, has not come. And the real battles afterwards will be for the design. That's very clear. I'm always a bit concerned of too many people designing something and then you over-design things. And the charm of the simplicity goes. I very much appreciate, I was quite close to Paolo, and he once told me that his system, and he has done the chamber in this way, his system of improving a design is by not adding an element, but taking away an element.
I agree with you.
You can improve a design like you have a table, and then here you make something funny on the corner. And he would take away the corner. So he makes it more beautiful by making it more simple. And we have the problem that in Matrimandir, if you allow the community to participate, you have 3,500 designers tomorrow, and it will be totally over-designed. But okay, we have to discuss this, and for sure, when it comes then to the question of what we call the park, which is outside, on the outside of the lake, where the mother has given very specific visions of tall trees and waterfalls and all this and that. So, and the design is not fixed now. We are just making the lake, but the shore we can design at any point of time. As I told, any point of time we can make 2 walls, take out the water, we can redo whatever we want there. So let us build the lake, and then we have to see how it integrates with the Matrimandir gardens, with the general design, how fanciful or how simplistic should we design it. But the question of beauty we haven't touched yet. This is just building the lake, but you cannot style or design the lake without the lake. The lake has to be there first, and then we can see, okay, what fits. If now theoretically you make all kinds of fancy things, and then, so let us have the lake, and then we see how we make it beautiful. It's not that we are against a beautiful Matrimandir.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I agree that by only adding, I think we cannot really achieve beauty. But it's balance again, an addition and then taking. So I think, yeah, my point is by working together, I think we can really achieve this.
Yeah, so then let's work together. Yeah, actually we said time limit is midnight. Actually not.
Okay, I'll be short, though I had a lot of things to say. You see, right in the beginning, when Aurovilians came, there was nothing here. But still they came. Why did they come? Because they believed in something. They believed in her. She saw something, and they believed in her, and they said, okay, let's do it. Then they started the communities, and we know all about it. Then the digging, the excavation for Matrimandir, if we had stood on that day where it was just a barren land with the blazing sun and those 3 or 4 we see in the photograph standing there with mamtis starting to dig, excavate for the Matrimandir, would anyone at that time have imagined there was going to be this magnificent structure and that there was going to be these magnificent gardens all around? But they had that faith and they went on. And we know after that what happened. We know how the crates, the excavated site looked. It was not beautiful. It was quite ugly because it was an excavation. But now we see what happened. And this is the whole history of the Matrimandir. At each step of the way, we had people objecting, but there were some people who believed in her dream. And they went on. And today the beautiful gardens are coming. You know, everything is so beautiful. It's such a pleasure to be there and it's such a beautiful atmosphere. And so I want to thank Michael for believing in her vision of the lake that is to be and to go ahead and do the work because it needs some courage. You put all your means, all your whatever to make this lake. You have done the same thing for Matrimandir, for we know all the stories. And bravo, you know. And I believe one day it will be very beautiful. We will stand, we don't know if we will be there, but maybe next life. We'll stand on that lake shore and say, wow, so beautiful. Only Mother could have imagined this. Could any one of us have imagined Matrimandir? Or the gardens, or the lake, or behind all this, the new world, the supramental world. We believe in the supramental world, but we have so many doubts about the lake, the water, this. So I think you are doing the right thing. If you take anything through the community process, my experience of the last 36 years is that a community process means block, block, block. All that you heard, all the objections that you heard are multiplied 100 times is what a community process is. The meaning of a community process is to block. So it's a very uninspiring thing. I'm sorry, I feel there is something wrong there, you know. You go to a community process so-called, there is nobody ever who said, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. And even if we all make a mistake, we have all made a mistake together, we will learn from it together. Nobody says that. Everybody just says, oh, this will happen, and that will happen. I don't want this road here. I don't want that thing here. You know? So it's like on and on. It's very boring. And It's not an adventure. And Mother has invited us for an adventure. She said, come to this adventure. I invite you to this adventure. Who has the adventurous spirit? If we follow her vision, it is not even an adventure because she has seen it. So it is already there on some level and we are trying to implement it. So when we, in the process of implementing it, she gives us something. We discover things. Something beautiful is revealed to us. And I think in that spirit, we should go on with the lake, and believe me, it will be something very beautiful. And those who want to collaborate and making it beautify, they should collaborate. What is stopping them? They're all welcome to come and make the banks, the waterfalls, everything, you know. But if you take it to the community process, good luck to you.
I have B, then Lakshai and Anandi. And then a few people wanted to speak again. Anandi is... This is Anandi, right? So you're... Ravinda we didn't have on the list. Okay, then Ravinda will be last. So 4 people. And then some people wanted to speak again. I don't know if everybody can speak, be shorter, then maybe we can afford it. But try to be as concise as you can.
I can be very concise. Because there's been a lot of revisionist history here that's completely false. But anyway, I'll be very brief. Clay lakes never work. We have land crabs here who eat holes in the clay. So that's out, and HDPE is a high density plastic that is not poisonous. The PVC pipes that you're drinking your water out of now are poisonous. So people have all these crazy ideas, you know. And I'm so happy that some of them are getting demystified and debunked. But this story about the community process, this is the community process. This is collaboration. And we've been doing it for the last 50 years. The Matrimandir, people hark back in a romantic way that Roger made the decisions and he was the Supreme Lord there. It's absolutely not true. Piero built the Matrimandir mostly. The second thing is, Piero made a huge mistake that people try to forget. He told the whole community, we have to go against the mother because the mother did not understand that the pillars are not needed to hold up the roof. And everybody in the room said nothing. And the next day we went up there and put in the foundations for the pillars. It's written in the agenda, 12 pillars. He said no. So, I mean, everybody is fallible, even our wonderful Michael Bonke. We threw Michael Bonke out of Oroville when he tried to build a factory in Svedam. The whole community went down there, grabbed him by the neck and took him to the Koot Road, put him on a motorcycle, sent him to Chennai, never to come back. And he's here today. He helped finish the Matrimandir, and now he's helping finish the lake. So everybody has a role, and we don't have to lecture each other about what Mother said, what beauty means. Beauty is totally relative. I have people telling me the Matrimandir is ugly. They say that glittering ball, that's the most ostentatious thing, unspiritual thing I've ever seen. I mean, these things are all very, very relative. And so why do we get so worked up, and I'm getting worked up, so why do we get so worked up and not be nice to each other? Everybody talks about collaboration. We can sit down at the table and discuss things without banging and, you know, and going crazy. And I've decided, once I turned 80, I decided I'm no more going to bang the table because it doesn't help. So we can be nice to each other, and we can work together, and we are working together. And the lake will be beautiful.
You remember that we had a meeting at Matrimandir, in the Matrimandir workshop, when we had produced the first discs for people to see, and we also gave a demonstration of the inner skin, something. And then Helmut was speaking on behalf of Piero. Paolo was there, and you were there. And then after that, you made a remark, I still remember, in the news and notes or in the Oronet, about a silent joy from that meeting, which I think was the best comment which was made in the whole meeting. You were there, you remember, no? No, I was not involved in that. That was much later, the meeting, than with the thing, yeah. Let's work together, why not? I mean, everybody is open, but we have to see that the collaboration is productive, that it accelerates the process and not that it slows it down.
I'm Lakshay. First of all, thanks for your presentation. I missed the previous two and previous one, and thank you very much. I raised the hand when you asked. I raised for continuing it. So I am for it. So whatever I'm going to say, it's from the point of view of supporting you. I disagree with some previous comment that this is we are going through a crisis. I think we are not. A political faction in Auroville is going through crisis. From their perspective, perhaps it looks like a crisis, but from where I'm seeing, it looks like an era of change. But I'm new to Auroville, so I'm perhaps may ask certain questions which may come across as non-informed. I saw this presentation and it looks like you presented all the positive points. I would like to see the negative of it. I have not seen, or perhaps I missed. I would like to see what are the weakness in your plan and how you have set up mechanisms to overcome that, and what are the threats that you couldn't come up with solutions for. Perhaps somebody also mentioned before, a brief study may not be as thick as I was in ATDC 2 years ago. So I've seen Harold Craft's, I mean, not read through it, but glanced through it. It's quite detailed. Perhaps it will take a long time to do that study, but a brief study, a white paper, perhaps on this would have been much appreciated, at least by people like me. And also you mentioned that the Harold Craft proposals right now stand not feasible after 20 years. Now you know that. What happens when your plan also after 20 years, there are some downsides to it which come across. So it may not be a bad idea to, while not stopping the work, parallelly having some other technical people to look into the probable downsides. You mentioned also that for the gold tiles of the gold, for the Matrimandir, you had a accelerated testing center or mechanism. Why didn't we have an accelerated testing pond, a smaller with controlled environment, and then see that its effect on the HDPE layer and other geo fabrics? This part, and then I go to the next part.
HDPE is by far the best and the best tested polymer which exists, and I think we don't have to test HDPE. The German government has by law forced the manufacturers of HDPE to give a guarantee of 100 years for garbage deposits where only HDPE is used, because the formula is so simple that it's totally inert against any chemicals, acids, all that. That's why it's also used for food containers, for food packaging.
I'm not questioning HDPE. I'm questioning the usage of HDPE in insulation. What is the effect of insulation on the earth below it? So that's what I am asking.
What you mean by insulation? You mean the foiling of the
foiling of the entire.
Yeah, but there are thousands of lakes made with HDPE to make a test now.
Doesn't make sense. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Fair enough. Second is about the water quality. I mean, like you said, we drink from PVC pipes, so many of us are used to it. But then there is a, little bit drinking from a balloon, water filled in a balloon seems a little odd for some reason, not perhaps well informed, but like you said, it could be some of the mental conditionings that we have. And why are we going for such processes? Is it because we cannot refill the lake with desalined water? Why can't we just increase the number of desalination plants? Is it just a cost implication? In that case, can we not fundraise?
To desalinate water takes a lot of energy, about 3 kilowatt hours per cubic meter. And one doesn't do that just for fun. You have then the purest possible drinking water. And on one hand, if we just pump pure desalinated water into a lake and mix it with runoff water, and in the villages the people still have unclean water, it somehow doesn't sound right. If we have pure drinking water, and desalinated water is the most pure drinking water you can imagine, one should use it for drinking water and not waste it and just pump it into lake and mix it with the dirty runoff water. It's as if you throw away food or something. I mean, you have some responsibility for some high quality product to use it adequately.
Exactly my point. When you create a desalination, which is only enough for Auroville population, whereas there is a bioregion, imagine after 10, 20 years, there is a water crisis, and we say what? That, sorry, we have drinking water, but not for you. So instead, is it not sensible to plan perhaps for 150,000 or 2 lakh population? And then even if it means requesting the government of India to fund this, it makes sense rather than relying just upon one party's ability to fund it.
Yeah, but we first have to set up the one. That's already difficult enough, and the one is meant to be a model plant in a particular way, which then afterwards maybe could be used as a model to scale it and multiply it on the coastline, but that's something which comes afterwards. First we have to establish this one.
Okay. In terms of beauty, like you mentioned, and I totally understand that this is a work in progress, even the other parks which have come up in the last 5 years, I've seen when it was built, it was pretty ugly, but then soon it's okay, and in fact it gets beautiful. However, why not have somebody do a 3D modeling of it to see how it will look? Perhaps there is a challenge that we cannot imagine, many of us cannot imagine how it would look once it is done. And we can easily, with a fraction of a cost, a 3D model can be created. I wonder why it is not done.
I don't think you need a 3D model for the lake anyway.
Not for the lake, for the water surface scaping, let's put it this way. For example, why does it have to be so steep, both sides? Why can't we taper it off in a more, in a manner that some of the trees are submerged? That also brings me to the second point. You only mentioned about the water creatures, but then there are also possibility of having trees little bit within submerged in water, and that becomes the place for birds to migrate, perch, nest, things like that.
But this is a big problem, the trees. If you have trees in the lake or...
Not in the lake in the middle, but I'm saying on the side, like I said, one side.
Even on the side, if the leaves fall in the lake, then you have an intrusion of biomass which spoils your whole oxygen household in the lake. You have to be a bit careful and do the whole thing consciously, but okay, this is a subject which we will have to look in future, but let's build the lake first and then we see what comes on the shores.
You brought the analogy of Matrimandir. Perhaps it's kind of a misfit, or it's like comparing oranges to apple here, because Matrimandir had a design before the engineers started digging. And we can understand it's a place where it's been dug up to create something which will come in the future. So where is the design? Where is the model? That's again, I mean, is it not is it not first you are trying to figure out the engineering solutions without even, I'm not sure what is the design part of the visual part of it. And then even perhaps you might have even more challenges, and that could have been like a great opportunity to overcome that.
I must say I'm not of your opinion that there was a design before, which was then never touched. There was a lot of changes in the design in the course of it. Like with Piero, we changed, there were in the Matrimandir inside 4 big black trapeze-shaped holes in the beginning from where the air-conditioned air was coming in. Then with Piero, we removed that, we made it plain. In the beginning, there were no gold tiles because of technical problems. Then we were working for 3 years in Germany to design the gold tile, get it perfect. All this was not there in the beginning. There were so many things which we developed in the course of time. The inner skin, all these beams. I remember we had made profiles, met with Roger again and again, partly in Le Crestet in France, partly in Matrimandir, and then detail after detail we designed while we were building it. It was not at all that there was a design in the beginning and we followed that strictly. It all came in the process of construction.
Okay, a final point. One comment that you made a little bit is making me think. You said you are on your own and you do everything a little bit as you feel right. And given the environment, like also Srimoy spoke about this whole notion about community process being used for historically in Auroville to stop things, to veto out, I can understand the word collaboration may seem very corrupt. But then we also have I would like to know your opinion. We also have an example of Crown right now, which is almost like a tragedy. We, like you are one man doing things, there is one woman doing there, and we can't ask why the ducks there are.
Wait, I don't get your point. What are you saying?
I'm trying to bring your attention to the Crown, which is almost is being managed by, is being orchestrated by one person for efficiency, which is very good, but then we can't question how it is done. So my question basically is, are you setting up a precedence, which perhaps in your case, we are all thankful and we have gratitude towards, but then is it setting up a case for other people to emulate, which may not be as good, perhaps as in your case? And in fact, I would wish, rather than you taking this heat, why not Matrimandir team and ATDC in there presenting, and you as a person who is an expert, who is kind of getting things done, a contractor or whatever. I wish that were to be the case. So this Varuna, like you said, also private limited, even this, I feel even the future you're not bringing in Auroville. I wish you say that I build this, then it is ATDC's job or Matrimandir's team to sustain it, to keep it alive. You are also taking that responsibility on yourself. I do not know what is your plan for next 45 years, 50 years, but then what happens after? That's it, I'm done.
I'm sorry if I presented the picture as if I can do what I want. There is a team and we are all doing it together. Rohan, Shiva, Arjun, whoever is working, Selvam, Jan, whatever. But we do it in an absolutely unregulated way. There is no hierarchy in our team that these are the executives and they make the decisions and the others, they have to obey or something like that. It's fantastic. It's just we are working together and we are doing it. And there is no friction, there is no big discussions, there is no process. We are just doing the work. So it's not that I'm the one who does and the others follow, not at all. We have a team and we are doing it just together.
Okay, we are past 9 at this point. I have Anandi. Can we agree that we wrap up on that? Yeah? Everybody? Nandi and Aravinda. Is that okay? And then we are done.
Thank you. While this was going on, I was bowing many times, not only to Michael Bunke or to the occasion, but to the director of this play and to everyone who carries that something that sustains us for hours in this. I see beauty not in the future, but in the now, because the beautiful, elegant, white water birds have come. When we start to actually do things, whether it is by one person, a couple of people, or a larger community, we get constant inspirations, financial support, creative ideas. We get all kinds of support if we actually start to do things, even if we are imperfect. That is my experience of working alone, working with 2 people, 3 people, or more. So the number of people doesn't matter. Whether we are perfect or not doesn't matter. Whether we are Aurovilians or not doesn't matter. Whether it is about the lake or some other projects doesn't matter. When we block something that we so much reject, now this blockage can also stop things, pause things that we want to actually see happen. Because of the NGT, I know one very good project that perhaps everyone would like to see happen in Oroville is paused. That is the Morning Star, the Natural Birthing Center. Who would object to that? For Orovillians to have natural births for the new babies to come. We need to see that there are other solutions beyond the legal laws, because there is the inner law and there is the eternal law that bounds us all together. I am not here for parties, for taking sides. I'm here, hopefully myself, and to also to invite everyone, whether you are pioneers or newcomers or in any status, to really see all sides, to see the beauty now, to act. If that one person can do so much work with a small group, how much Oroville can do, each one of us and all of us together.
I feel almost guilty to take the mic now because it is so late and everybody is so tired. So maybe I would not have all the things that I wanted to see. It has been a long list. But one thing that I do feel really want to share, that when we put our faith in the mother, that it is going to be beautiful, I also put my faith in the mother that this community is going to be together and united. Mother made this Oroville for human unity, and we cannot bypass it just because we can't manage it now. It has to manifest. So it's not to pause the lake or not pause the lake, but it is to be determined that human unity is a must at all stages. And what has not worked in the past is not a criteria for it not to work in the future. If we stay with that equation, then nothing here could have been done. So it is a place for transformation, it is a place for growth, it is a place for manifestation, and let us be open for every aspect of beauty and manifestation. Nothing short of that. One thing that I do want to share, Michael, with you, because I don't know if I will have ever chance to speak to you separately, I would have loved to do that. You again and again bring that beautiful 15-meter deep lake by the Jinji, as it can be done. It is deep, no problems, water is healthy. It is a natural lake. It has no restriction for trees to be on the side. It has no problems with the leaves falling in it. So why is that working which will not work here? Can we not be a little bit more imaginative and creative about it? How will we stop leaves falling in that lake every time there is a high wind? Because it is not only the leaves of the trees by the side, it will be the leaves from anywhere. They will blow in there. So something that is at this point very mysterious is that we are caught on a sterile design which cannot have anything natural in it. And for me, it's a bit of a paradox. A natural lake with natural beauty will have natural elements and have solutions for natural elements to be in beauty and in health. That's my belief. I think solutions will be found. Even this test lake now can become the site of developing the beauty side of it. Why wait? This test lake is there, we can start developing the beautiful side of it. I think it can enhance the process. So it's not a question, and I'm not really wanting anybody to answer. I don't want you to take any time.
No,
I'm
but
sorry for that.
I will say something. See, the Jinji lakes, I don't know whether you go there sometimes for swimming, but there are several lakes, and around the lakes is just granite. There are no trees around and all that. It's just granite, and it's steep. Inside it's granite, it's stone. Outside it's granite. There are no trees where the leaves fall in, and that's why the water is so pure and so clean. And there is not even any sediments coming in, because it's not runoff harvested water. It's just the water which falls on the granite and flows in. So naturally, that's fantastic. You couldn't have a better scenario. But then this is not an argument for putting trees on the lake, because in the Jinji lakes, there are no trees on the side. Okay, thank you.